When the Awakeners Academy begins their testing ceremony, every student is called one by one to prove their rank. The professor makes them enter a special portal, and inside that room is a demon heart trained to absorb their energy, measure their strength, and display their current rank and future potential for the whole academy to see. Most of them turn out to be straight-up E-rank trash. Some barely reach D-rank and already act like they are the chosen one. Bro, calm down. That's when the academy's top genius finally steps forward. This guy is the rich heir of the strongest guild, so of course everyone is watching him like he's already the main character. His friends are hyping him up, saying he will make history and become the #1 genius of the academy. He enters the room completely confident, stands before the demon heart and unleashes his power. Outside, the students start cheering like crazy, and sure enough, his result appears. High-tier D rank with the potential to reach S rank someday. Everyone goes wild. His friends are especially proud, acting like this guy just saved humanity. One of them even turns to a quiet boy named Si Chen, who is next in line, and laughs at him, saying he will probably embarrass himself. But Si Chen doesn't even bother answering. Our guy just walks forward. He enters the testing room like everyone else, but the moment he steps near the demon heart, something is already wrong. Si Chen hasn't even used a single skill yet, but the demon heart starts trembling like it just saw its ancestor. Then, the display suddenly lights up. High-tier D rank. The arrogant genius outside also loses that smug look on his face because this humble guy already reached his rank without even trying. Then Si Chen finally decides to use something, not even his real power. Just the weakest skill card he devoured from a monster. The moment he activates it, the rank shoots up to C rank. Now everyone is losing their mind. The students who mocked him can't even speak. The professors are staring at the screen like they are reading it wrong. But our guy is still not done. Si Chen switches to a stronger class card, and this time the demon heart starts panicking for real. The whole testing room shakes, the sky outside begins to twist, and a storm forms above the academy. Then the rank display glitches, S rank potential. The professors immediately stand up, because something like this is already insane. But before they can even react, the single S suddenly becomes double S, then triple S, and then the system breaks. Error. Maximum load exceeded. Now the professors are not shocked anymore, they are scared, because the demon heart was built to measure talented awakeners, not monsters pretending to be students. So now everyone is wondering the same thing. Who the hell is Si Chen, and why is this guy so broken? Well, the truth is, Si Chen is not just some normal student. He is a regressor. In his past life, the entire world was conquered by demons. Humanity was pushed to the edge, cities were destroyed, and people were slaughtered until almost no one was left. Si Chen became the last survivor, fighting alone for years in a ruined world, and after endless battles, he finally reached the Demon King. But even then, there was no clean victory, so Si Chen used everything he had and self-destructed together with the Demon King, dragging that monster down with him. He thought that was the end. But after a blinding light, Si Chen suddenly opens his eyes inside a school infirmary. This immediately shocks him because he is supposed to be dead. He gets up, looks out the window, and sees normal people walking around like nothing ever happened. No demons, no destruction, no apocalypse. That's when it finally hits him. He returned 10 years into the past, back to his university days. As Si Chen tries to understand what is happening, a status screen suddenly appears in front of him, telling him that the power of gluttony has been fully integrated. That is when our guy realizes something even more important. He didn't return to a peaceful future. He returned 3 years before the descent of the Demon Kings, and in 3 years the first Demon King, Wrath, will appear. He is the one who opens the gates of hell, allowing the other Demon Kings to enter the human world one by one. However, now that he is back, Si Chen believes that as long as he can defeat the first Demon King to appear, Wrath, he has a chance to prevent the gates of hell from opening. This is basically a chance for him to change everything. Just then, it dawns on him that the gluttony interface is new because it has been floating in his presence since he woke up. Just then, it displays some game-like data, which reveals that he is currently level 1, and his other stats are all at 100, which is the base level. Si Chen is surprised because this is the first time he has ever seen something like this, since he only fought with his awakened power in the past. Basically, only 1 in 10,000 people in the world can become an awakener, and the school he currently attends is one that only recruits potential awakeners, the National Awakener University. However, in his previous life, he didn't awaken in his university days, and for 4 whole years he stayed at the very bottom of the food chain, which gave everyone the chance to do whatever they liked to him. In fact, this is why he woke up in the infirmary. His current class is the Lightning Assassin, which has a bunch of stars representing his stats, like strength and speed. His passive skills are Lightning God and Lightning Blade. The Lightning God infuses the whole body with electricity, instantly increasing movement speed by 10 times. The The second is the lightning blade, which condenses electricity into a blade. Attacks have a critical bonus, and striking an enemy's vital point applies a paralysis effect. Si-chen is surprised that he carried over the same class from his previous life, and he is already feeling a surge of power flowing through his body. He wonders if the strength from his past life was carried over. Suddenly, it dawns on him that he might have awakened early, and he decides to test the class by switching to it. He is in the middle of this when the door opens, and a dude, Malong, an E-rank flower chanter, enters the room. Malong rushes over to hug Si-chen, expressing his surprise that the dude is finally awake. He asks him if he is fine, but since Malong is not reacting to the interface, Si-chen realizes that he is the only one who can see the status window. Malong checks Si-chen's body, and he is surprised that all of his injuries have healed even though he took a heavy beating the day before. He asks why Si-chen is recovering fast like an awakener. Apparently, Malong is Si-chen's roommate, and even though he awakened during their time in the university, he was a bottom tier. In his past life, the dude was tragically killed on the third day of the Demon King's descent, and Si-chen cannot hold back his smile because the dude is now standing in front of him as if nothing had happened to him. This confirms the fact that he is truly back, and Malong pushes him out of the infirmary, telling him that they have to prepare for the rank test, which is being held the next day. Malong tells Si-chen that it is crucial to his graduation evaluation, even if he hasn't awakened. As they walk through the campus, Si-chen sees how lively and calm everything is, and he mentions that it's been a long time since he's seen so many living people. Malong just stares at him weirdly because he has been saying a lot of weird things. Malong sees him walking close to the playground, and he suggests that they walk past it instead of entering. However, Si-chen is thinking about how he has to do something to make sure that history doesn't repeat itself. To do this, he figures out that he has to raise his level pretty fast. To level, he would need to kill monsters in demon lairs, but the majority of the demon lairs have been monopolized by the great guilds, and outsiders have zero chance to level up. Since his current stats are all sitting on 100, he wonders how strong he is compared to other awakeners and monsters. Apparently, to distinguish power levels, the government has classified awakeners and monsters into ranks, which range from the highest, S rank, to the lowest, E rank. At the moment, most students at the university are stuck at E rank, and only a few geniuses or those with a guild supporting them can reach D rank. With his current stats, he can estimate his power level, but he wonders what rank he would get if he took the test. However, he is confident that he is stronger than Malong. They are minding their business when a ball comes flying out of nowhere, hitting Malong in the head, causing him to hit his head on the ground. It turns out that the ball came from a bunch of bullies sitting in the distance, and these are the same guys who sent Si-chen to the hospital. Malong freaks out when he looks up and he sees the dude standing there because this was what he wanted to avoid when he suggested that they take another route. The leader of the gang is a jacked up dude with an annoying face, and he tells the two to go buy him drinks. Malong bows his head in fear, assuring the dude that he is going to buy the drinks he wanted. However, Si-chen stops him, telling him that he is not at fault, and the gang of bullies should be the ones saying sorry. Si-chen makes sure to aura farm as he leaves his two hands in his pockets while addressing the gang. Just seeing the big guy, Si-chen remembers unfavorable memories from his past. The dude once pushed his head into the sink, claiming that he was helping him awaken his power. They only let Si-chen go after he fainted, and Malong was the one who rushed over to check on him. Si-chen manages to recover while asking Malong why the dude and his gang have to mess with them, but the moment the dude hears him talking, he turns back to beat him up some more. Now in the present, Si-chen is completely pissed about the events from his previous life, and when he speaks back to the dude loses it. Malong freaks out, and he starts sweating all over while asking Si-chen if he is trying to get himself killed. Apparently the dude is Gongcheng, and he is an E-rank flower warrior. Cheng's arms solidify as he approaches Si-chen with his gang. Si-chen knows that Cheng only dares to bully those who are weaker because his older brother is the strongest and also the student council president. In reality, the dude himself is pretty weak, and the moment the other students see Cheng walk to Si-chen, they assume that Si-chen is about to get beaten up again. Everyone knows them as the two most useless dudes in the entire school, but Si-chen doesn't move an inch even as Cheng stands tall above him, asking him to repeat what he said. Si-chen then tells the dude not to bother him and his friend again, but Cheng loses it, and he throws a heavy punch at Si-chen. Surprisingly, our guy easily blocks the attack with one hand, and this has enough force to send Cheng staggering backward. Everyone freaks out in shock when they see this because no one expected Si-chen to be able to block Cheng's attack. They start asking questions among themselves about how this is possible, since Si-chen hasn't awakened. Cheng loses his mind in anger, asking Si-chen if an unawakened weakling like him is aiming to challenge him. Just then, Si-chen lets out an evil smile as his class fully switches to the lightning assassin, and he decides that he is going to test out his skill on Cheng. Malong freaks out in shock because he didn't even expect that Si-chen had awakened. Seeing lightning run through Si-chen's body, Chung also reinforces his body with his apparently indestructible demon armor. But before he even realizes what is happening, Si-chen reaches him and he punches him in the face while still maintaining a hand in his pocket. The punch carries enough weight which sends Chung tumbling into the distance before being stopped by a wall. The students scream out in shock because Chung was taken down with a single hit, and even Malong can't believe that the person he is currently staring at is Si-chen. Chung's face is entirely disfigured, but he still hasn't learned his lesson, as he believes that Si-chen used a sneak attack on him. Chen yells at his gang members, telling them not to just stand there and watch. He wants them to jump Si-chen together, but his gang members can see the overwhelming aura radiating from Si-chen's body, and they know that Si-chen is more than capable of killing them if they mess up. As Si-chen walks up to Chung, Chung gets up and throws another punch at Si-chen, but Si-chen easily grabs his arm, crushing it. Chung screams in pain, but his suffering is not yet over as Si-chen cooks up a powerful left punch that he sends into the dude's chest, shattering almost every bone in his body. Chung is sent flying into the wall with his clothes all torn up. He crashes into the wall really hard and he passes out with his entire body totally bloodied. Malong is left in complete astonishment while wondering when Si-chen became that strong. After taking Cheng down, Si-chen confirms that he can switch classes whenever he wants. Even though he is still a level 1 player with the system, he realizes that his strength is enough to deal with the lowest level awakeners, which means he is currently above E rank. However, he still doesn't know his exact rank, but he also wonders why there's no increase in his stats even though he already defeated Chung. A wild idea suddenly comes to his mind and he conjures a lightning spear as he walks toward Chung, aiming to finish him off. Malong and the other students freak out when they see this, and they urge Si-chen to calm down and not go through with what he is about to do. Even Chung, who was knocked out before, wakes up when he sees a lightning dagger on his throat, ready to tear his neck apart. Just then, a blonde-haired, pretty lady shows up on the scene, urging Si-chen to chill out because Cheng has received enough punishment. It turns out that the girl is Ling Yu, vice president of the student council, and she assures Si-chen that with what he's done, Chung will never dare to come after him again. Si-chen lets Chung go, wondering if Ling Yu is eager to step in to protect him, but nonetheless, he has no intention to kill Chung. However, he had to show the dude that he can't keep coming after him. Meanwhile, Chung's minions are freaking out where they are hiding, and seeing how scary Si-chen is, they make a vow never to bother him again unless they want to die. Everyone has always known the two as the weakest and poorest losers in the whole school, but the way everyone sees them has suddenly changed. When Malong returns to the dormitory, he tells their other two roommates that Si-chen has awakened, and he adds the fact that he is a super strong lightning assassin. Malong tells the other two that Si-chen beat Cheng up, and with this, his gang would never disturb them again. One of the roommates, Zhang Zuo, who is an E-rank nucleus mage, doesn't entirely believe Malong, and he asks Malong where Si-chen is. He yells at Malong, asking him why Si-chen has run off when he is pretty strong, just like Malong claimed. The other dude, Xiang Yu, who is an E-rank flower chanter, agrees with Zuo, saying Si-chen must have been beaten to a pulp, which is why he went into hiding. Malong stands in silence while Zuo yells at him, reminding him that they were all put in the same dorm room because their ranks are the bottom 4 of the entire year. Zuo mentions that he is 4th from the bottom, which means he is the leader in the dorm. He boasts about how he is the only combat nucleus mage in the entire room, telling Malong that he and the others are just there to support him. Zuo talks about how weak Si-chen is, so there is no way he is a lightning assassin. He mentions that he, on the other hand, has been getting stronger in recent times, so he might even get the chance to squeeze into a club. Xiangyu reminds them that the next day is the final rank test before graduation evaluation, and everything will become clear by then. Later that day, Gongting, Cheng's brother and also the student council president, just stepped out of an E-rank training demon lair when he ran into his brother, whose body was covered in bandages. Cheng tells his brother that he won't have peace of mind if he doesn't avenge him because Si-chen basically beat him in front of everyone, which basically means he has no respect for Ting. Ting subtly assures Cheng that he is going to help him handle the whole thing. Later on, Ting meets with Ling Yu and she asks him how he plans to handle the situation. Ting asks her if it is true that Si-chen is stronger than Cheng, and she reminds him that he has recruited the entirety of those who are D-rank in the school. She adds that others don't even have the opportunity to access demon lairs like him, so there is no way stupid mediocre awakeners like Si-chen can improve. Ling Yu praises him highly, telling him that no one can actually catch up to his pace. While they are having this meeting, Si-chen is running in the rain, carrying 100 weights on his back to make it more grueling. Apparently, basic training can improve physical quality, and it is known that an awakener's upper limit is directly related to their physical strength. Only with a strong body can one harden and unleash extreme class powers, but he knows that with his current strength, he has a long way to go. In the year 2160, Wrath would leave the demon lair and descend upon the world, and within the blink of an eye, he would kill a large number of humans. Even Si-chen's sister died at Wrath's hands, and he was also the one who opened the gates of hell for all the other demon kings to enter the human realm. With this, Si-chen figures out that his first plan is to kill Wrath, who is the beginning of all the destruction. Since there are only 3 years before Wrath shows up, Si-chen figures out that he must be growing at an alarming rate, which is why he has to grow faster than him. Just then, his phone rings, and when he checks it, it turns out to be his sister, Si-yun, who is worried because she just returned from a competition only to find a bunch of missed calls from her brother. Yun tells Si-chen that if she manages to win the competition, their lives will change for the better. Si-chen was so overwhelmed that he couldn't even speak. He remembers praying for everything to start over in his previous life when his sister and everyone else died. Yun then asks him why he is not saying anything because the only thing she can hear is the noise of raindrops hitting the ground. Si-chen simply tells his sister that it is nothing, while internally making a vow to protect his sister no matter the cost. Si-chen just tells his sister that it is nice to hear her voice, and the lady assures her that they are going to talk much better after the conversation. Late into the night, Si-chen finally returns to his dorm, and this is 8 hours after he returned to the past. His roommates are already asleep, and he steps into the bathroom to wash up while realizing that he is slowly adapting to his body. He figures out that he has to think about the most critical issue, which is leveling up, and this requires entering demon layers. However, the demon layers are monopolized by guilds, and aside from the powerful and wealthy, most people have no chance to level up. Si-chen lies on his bed and sleeps off while thinking of how he is supposed to find monsters to defeat and level up. In addition, he still doesn't know what the power of gluttony does, and just as he closes his eyes to sleep, the system finishes loading, and Si-chen finds himself getting thrown into the gluttony system. Si-chen lands in a weird space where there is a tall tower in front of him, leaving him totally confused. He looks around, and he sees monsters emerging from the weird red-colored river surrounding him. Si-chen quickly switches classes, aiming to take on the monsters because it appears that he has found himself in a demon lair. Even though he doesn't know what is happening just yet, he plans to take out the monsters that have surrounded him. The E-rank monsters dash toward him, but he cuts through them at lightning speed. He delivers precise cuts that finish off the monsters with little to no effort. Si-chen is not worried because he knows that with his current strength, E-rank monsters are child's play. Seeing how real everything is thanks to the experience points and the loot he's accumulating, he figures out that it is as real as it can get. After killing so many monsters, he finally moves up a level to level 2. Si-chen smiles because this tells him that he can gain experience and level up in the demon lair. Each of his stats has also increased by 5 points, and Si-chen lets out a bright smile because he just found himself a demon lair that he can take on solo. While he is thinking about this, one of the monsters tries to land a sneak attack on him, but he slices the monster in half while figuring out that he would basically use the lair to test his limits. Si-chen continues cutting through the monsters, and in no time he reaches level 3. Si-chen is surprised at the fact that he is actually leveling up in such a short time, and suddenly the system displays an option for him to devour the monster boss that he just defeated, leaving him surprised. He starts to realize that this is the true power of gluttony, and just then he stretches his hand forward to consume the monster's essence. Upon absorbing the monster's essence, another class card appears on the scene. This is a class that grants him immunity to cold, and his resistances are increased in low-temperature environments. Si-chen is surprised that the monster was absorbed into a card, which tells him that he can devour his enemies after he has killed them, so he can turn them into his own classes. Suddenly, it dawns on him that this is the same skill that Len Yu had, and it appears that he has seized it for himself. It is known that classes are born with everybody, and one can only possess one class. However, as it stands, it appears that he can possess 2 classes simultaneously. However, it doesn't end there, because if he can devour other monsters, he is going to possess infinite classes. This leaves him wondering why he obtained such a crazy power, which leads him to ask what the demonic tower behind him is for. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake and he is crippled with an immense aura that hits the surroundings. This leaves Si-chen freaking out as he cannot understand what is happening. Just then, a dude with 2 demonic greatswords appears in the distance, telling Si-chen that he is glad that he's finally awake because he has been waiting for him a long time. The dude looks really intimidating with bandages over his body, and his eyes glow brightly. The immense pressure knocking Si-chen to the ground lets him know that he is in trouble. He remembers that in his past life, he struggled hard before he could reach S rank, but in the current era, he is D rank at most. To make it worse, the enemy that just appeared in front of him looks like an S rank boss at least. Si-chen can see that the gap in levels is just too wide, and his stats are currently being crushed by standing in front of the boss monster alone. A lot of questions start running through his head, like what kind of demon lair he has found himself in, and why there is an S rank monster there. In addition, he is curious to know how the monster knew his name. Moments later, Si-chen realizes that the enemy could have one-shotted him if he wanted, because with the blows they have traded, he has just been toying with him. However, every time the dude hits him, he doesn't hit him hard, and he also makes sure to avoid his vitals. The dude is just knocking him around the battlefield, and just then, the dude expresses his surprise that Si-Chen is still standing. This leaves Si-Chen wondering if the dude wants him to submit, and the enemy tells Si-Chen to rethink the choices he has given him. Basically, he wants him to either stay and guard the demonic tower with him, claiming that it is a rare opportunity, but Si-Chen outright rejects the offer, saying there is no way he is going to stay in the hellhole. He hasn't finished saying this when a sword slash cuts through his left arm, spilling blood everywhere. The scary dude asks Si-Chen if he thinks he is not going to kill him, telling Si-Chen that he has only been patient with him because he is the only one who is capable of coming to the gluttony space. Si-Chen then spots the life force of the monsters in the area traveling toward the scary dude as his power level shoots through the roof as he tells Si-Chen that he's going to ask him the question one last time. Even the ground is pulled apart and formed into boulders, which are aimed at Si-Chen to crush him. The dude tells him to stay in the weird gluttony space or be crushed into a pulp, but this only triggers Si-Chen's anger further. Lightning runs through his body as he dashes toward the dude, telling him that he chooses to kill him. Si-Chen runs through the boulders while making his way toward the dude. Apparently, Si-Chen has analyzed the dude's fighting pattern during their couple of exchanges. He realizes that before every swing, the dude has a 0.4-second windup, and with this, he can use the slight delay to observe the angle of his wrist so he can predict the path and dodge the dude's blade. Just as planned, he runs through the dude's strike, giving him the chance to appear behind him. As Si-Chen prepares to put everything into one overwhelming attack, he admits that he is doing this because the dude has a 0.2-second recovery lag, which is enough for him to strike. Si-Chen does everything as planned, and he reaches the dude before he recovers, and he pushes his dagger into his chest to pierce his heart. Si-Chen had used the lightning blade, which condenses electricity into a blade that delivers paralysis. Even though he knows that he can't kill the dude since he is a D rank and the enemy is S rank, he believes that the paralysis from his full power burst should hold the enemy for a few seconds for him to escape. Si-Chen then pulls back, and he activates the lightning god skill that increases his movement speed 10 times. He dashes through the battlefield as lightning trails his path like the Flash while aiming to get to the exit in the few seconds that he has. During the fight, he has been observing the area, and he's noticed that the only light source in the entire area is the one he is running toward, which shows that it is the exit. Just as he is about to jump into the light source, it vanishes right in front of him, leaving him trapped with the scary dude. The dude pushes his swords into the ground, generating enough force to cause a mini-quake, while telling Si-Chen that what he was running toward was just an illusion he left there, and letting him know that there is no exit from the demon lair. The dude is now more pissed than ever as dark energy courses through his body, but he commends Si-Chen for the fact that he was able to find the flaws in his attacks quickly. Suddenly, he calms down as he tells Si-Chen that he is the only one who can bring hope. Finally, his name is displayed, and it turns out to be Purgatory Rakshasa, an S-rank star warrior. With Rakshasa's hood burnt off by his aura, Si-Chen finally gets to see his face, and he is surprised because he has seen this appearance before, and it was on Lan Yu, the leader of the Demon Kings. Rakshasa commends Si-Chen for being able to calmly analyze his opponent even in the face of danger. The first time Si-Chen had seen this appearance was when he fought Lan Yu, and during this fight, Lan Yu had switched between several high-rank classes with ease, making the battle unbearable for Si-Chen. Among the many forms that the Demon King changed into was the current form he is looking at. It was an appearance that had 2 curved horns bulging out of the head. This leaves Si-Chen wondering if the dude was devoured by Lan Yu's power of gluttony, and since he now has the gluttony power inside his body, it basically means the demon lair is inside him. Rakshasa is impressed by how he is able to quickly figure out what is going on, and he commends him for it. He tells him that he has proven himself to be worthy of everything that the demon lair holds. Si-Chen is still confused by this, and just then, Rakshasa whips out an SSS rank key that is called the Key of the Void, which is the only key to the gates of the demonic tower. Rakshasa lets him know that the key he is staring at is the only key to the tower, while revealing that Lan Yu once devoured numerous ferocious demons. He tells him that the strongest of the demons have been sealed in the tower that stands behind him. He gives Si-Chen the key, telling him to devour them all to grow stronger. Si-Chen asks Rakshasa why he is doing what he is doing, which is basically helping him, and Rakshasa mentions that among the demon race, there is a line between good and evil. He reveals that the Demon Kings slaughtered his entire kin just to satisfy their own greed, and he has been waiting for a long time to get revenge on them. He tells Si-Chen that he finally has the chance to do so, and the very chance he is talking about is Si-Chen. Rakshasa says something strange, saying a particular guy is right because it appears that only Si-Chen can succeed. Si-Chen is left completely in shock, asking Rakshasa who he is talking about, and Rakshasa tells him that all the answers he wants are hidden within the tower, so he just has to enter to find them himself. Just then, Rakshasa starts to dissipate for Si-Chen to take his power. Si-Chen freaks out in shock when he hears this, and Rakshasa tells Si-Chen that from that moment, he must make sure he is unstoppable. Before finally turning into an energy essence, he tells Si-Chen that he must open the gates of the demonic tower to devour everything inside. However, he tells Si-Chen that the demons inside the tower won't go easy on him as he did, because they are the most cunning and vicious entities in existence. However, he urges Si-Chen to endure everything and conquer the tower. He lets him know that it is his job to stand at the very peak of the world until he has devoured every single one of the demon kings. He finally turns into essence, revealing that he doesn't regret the fact that he is giving Si-Chen his power because he is a man with unmatched resolve, so he is the only one who deserves his power. Upon devouring Rakshasa, Si-Chen levels up to level 10, and he is informed that he has obtained Rakshasa's 2 swords too. Si-Chen then promises Rakshasa that he is going to carry his will with him, and as the devouring settles in, the power card appears on the screen. He has 2 skills, which are the Bone Grip Ruin and Triple Gravity Strike. The Bone Grip Ruin absorbs the stamina and strength of nearby corpses, converting them into the user's own power. The Triple Gravity Strike, on the other hand, manipulates gravity to attack enemies in 3 forms, which are light, heavy, and overload. Seeing Rakshasa's determination, Si-Chen promises to make their enemy pay with blood. Just then, he hears his roommates screaming at him to wake up. He gets up and realizes that it is already morning and his roommates are preparing for the rank test. Si-Chen is surprised at how fast he got back to the dorm, and in addition, his wounds have completely healed. He wonders if everything that happened was a dream, but just then, he notices that the 2 power cards he obtained in the demon lair are still reflecting on the status window. This lets him know that everything he went through was real because even the loot he got in the dream came back with him. In a single night, he made it to level 10, and he wonders what rank he will currently be classified as. Just then, Zuo walks up to him with a mocking face, telling him that Malong was talking big about him the night before. He asks Si-Chen if he is planning to take over his reign as the leader of the dorm, and he suggests that they head to the rank test so he can see what he is made of. Moments later, the 4 finish dressing up, and as they head to the arena where the test is being held, Zuo reminds the other 3 that they might all be E ranks. But he is mid-E rank, unlike them, who are low E rank. He munches on a dough while claiming that the gap between each tier is massive, so this means he can take on 10 low-rank E rank at the same time. Zuo jumps up in joy, saying his rank might have shot up since the last test, and Malong subtly tells Si-Chen to make sure he gives his all in the test. He wants him to aim for D rank at least so he can scare the hell out of him. Si-Chen acknowledges his suggestion to make it to D rank. Not long after this, they arrive at the arena, and Zuo is surprised that most of the students are already there. Just then, they spot Chung's lackeys walking toward them and they start freaking out. While the others are freaking out, Si-Chen stands unfazed without any care in the world. Zuo and the other 2 are about to sink into the ground in fear when the lackeys suddenly bow to Si-Chen while addressing him as their big brother. Zuo is left in shock as he asks why they are suddenly being respectful to Si-Chen, and Malong reminds him that he told him everything that Si-Chen did. Instead of acknowledging those who are bowing to him, Si-Chen ignores them and walks away. Just then, he runs into a rude dude, Jiang Jun, who tells Si-Chen that he heard everything he did to Chung the day before. Jian yells at Si-Chen, asking him if he knows who Chung is. He reminds Si-Chen that Cheng is Ting's junior brother. While Jian is busy yelling at Chen, Zuo and the others are hiding in the distance, wondering why Jian is now targeting Si-Chen. Jian moves closer to Si-Chen to whisper in his ear, telling him that he has a unique sense of smell, so he can smell a true strong warrior from a mile away. However, he doesn't smell anything impressive from Si-Chen, and he tells Si-Chen that what he smells from him is the stench of a permanent bottom feeder. Si-Chen ends his entire ego by asking him if he is a freaking dog, and this almost makes Jian lose his mind. He yells at Si-Chen, asking him to repeat what he just said, but before he can hit Si-Chen, Ting arrives on the scene, telling Jian to back off. Ting mentions that he has already investigated what happened, and it appears that Cheng was the one who offended first, so it is only right to pay the price for doing something wrong. Jian backs off just as Ting ordered, and he and Si-Chen lock eyes intently. Just then, one of the old examiners came up to the stage to tell them that the grade test would begin shortly. He mentions that they are going to conduct the test in order of student number, so he suggests that they come up to the stage in an orderly manner when they hear their name. Ting then tells Jian that they should prepare for the grade test first because deep down, Ting believes that Si-Chen is not a threat. Meanwhile, Ling Yu and one particular strange man are watching the test from a distance. The man asks Ling Yu if she is there to watch the test because she has discovered someone worth paying attention to, and Ling Yu lets him know that the test is going to be quite interesting. An hour later, Zuo is called to the stage to take the test. He steps into the test portal with the intention of giving it his all to see if there's been any improvement whatsoever. Apparently, the test is always conducted individually within a specially made training demon lair, and inside this training demon lair is a demon heart that is capable of absorbing energy. The Awakener needs to release all their energy in front of the demon heart to charge it to the maximum. This demon heart will then transmit the sensed energy to external equipment via cables, and then the energy will be presented on the screen in the form of data. Zuo puts his all into it, and when the data is displayed on the screen for everyone to see, it appears that he is still a mid-tier E rank. However, the main event is when the potential is displayed, and when Zuo's potential is finally displayed, it turns out to be C rank. Apparently, people with high potential have a very high probability of receiving key attention from the state, but with Zuo's mid-tier C rank potential, he has no shot at it. Zuo walks out of the grading room in disappointment because he was expecting to have improved a bit. He returns to the back in tears, while Malong tries to console him, reminding him that they are even weaker. They remind him that they can't reach D grade just like him, and this is because they have done their own tests too. Apparently, Malong and Xiang Yu can't go past low-tier C rank. They were wondering if there wouldn't be a higher grade that year when a student's potential hits B rank. The girl runs out of the grading room in excitement because she is D rank and her potential is B rank. Not long after this, Jian checks his grade. He walks out with pride because his current rank is D rank while his potential is A rank. Malong and his peer start crying their eyes out because Jian is the 8th D rank of the day while they are still stuck on E rank. Even the examiners are impressed with the fact that there are so many D grade talents that year, even with the fact that they have no real combat experience. Because of this, the examiners believe that the year's graduation combat assessment will be worth watching. Ting is then called to the stage and everyone is hyped to see what his rank is going to be. Ting is believed to be the chosen one since he is the young master of the Imperial Guild. In the first test that was conducted 2 years back, he actually reached D rank, and with this, they wonder what level he has reached after 2 years. Upon entering the grading room, Ting decides to hold back with the intention of revealing his full strength during the graduation combat assessment, so he can cause a huge sensation at this time. However, he plans to come out as the #1 in the school's history. After releasing energy into the demon's heart, his rank and potential are displayed on the screen. It measures that he is currently a high-tier D rank, while his potential is S rank. The crowd goes wild when they see this, and they start grabbing their heads in shock, since Ting is the first in the school's history. John is among those who are singing Ting's accolades, but Si Chen is not even moved one bit. The examiners are left in awe too, and they plan to report the result to the superiors. Basically, an awakener with S-rank potential is a rare treasure in the world, so it is pretty obvious that the state is going to be focused on him and protect him. As if this isn't enough, he is also the son of the Imperial Guild leader, and they know that this will make national headlines. The strange man watching the test alongside Lingyu admits that the year's test is proving to be impressive. He teases Lingyu, asking if she already knows that Ting is going to be S-rank, which is why she came to watch. It turns out that the strange man is Yuan Long, and he is the principal of the university. Lingyu then tells the man that she didn't come for Ting only, and she mentions that she is looking forward to Si Chen's performance even more than that of Ting's. Just then, Si Chen is called to the stage to test his rank. As Si Chen walks to the stage, John teases him, telling him to bring some honor to his dorm and to make sure he doesn't come out with another low-tier E rank. John laughs at Si Chen, telling him that if he ends up being E rank, he and his roommates are going to be the biggest laughingstock in the whole university. He tells Si Chen that he and his friends will be nothing but a disgrace at the graduation assessment test. Malong manages to pull together some courage, and he tells John not to worry because Si Chen is definitely going to shock everyone. As he enters the grading room, Zuo wonders if Si Chen can really do it. The moment the demon eyes spot Si Chen, its expression changes. It is pretty obvious that in their current era, an awakener needs to prove their worth to the high-tier guilds to secure the best future. Talking about the graduation assessment, it is a squad of up to 10 members, and candidates are free to choose their own team members. The squad that takes first place will have every one of their members recruited by the nation's top-tier guild, the Imperial Guild. The test is not just about determining one's rank, because it has a far bigger purpose than this. While Si Chen is still taking his test, Jian is already recruiting members to Ting's team in preparation for the graduation assessment. Basically, all 9 D-rank students of the year are on their team, so Jian is confident that they are going to come out on top with Ting and Cheng in the team. The purpose of the rant test is basically to know who to invite to one's team. While Jian and the others are celebrating that they are the biggest team, Malong and his roommates are standing in one corner thinking about how they are the definition of a weak team. Moments later, they start wondering why there's been no movement whatsoever from Si Chen, who has been in the grading room for a while. The students are already making fun of him, claiming his power is so trash that the machine couldn't even detect it. Since he is among the last students to be graded, the students are already making plans to return to their dorm, as they believe the grading is already done and dusted. Jian even tells Ting not to waste his time, and they should find a place for some karaoke. Ting agrees to this, and just as they are about to move, the screen starts to glitch, preparing to display Si Chen's rank. By the time the rank comes on, everyone almost loses their minds because it turns out to be a high tier D rank. Malong goes crazy, screaming at the top of his voice, telling everyone that he wasn't wrong. Even Ting and Jian are shocked when they see this. Back in the grading room, Xichen pulls back from feeding the demon heart energy, and the system detects the instability in the demon heart, telling Xichen to retake the test so his potential can be displayed. It turns out that Xichen only used his basic class, and he is surprised that his level 10 base stats are equivalent to high D rank. He then decides to switch classes to the Infernal Death King, which is currently his weakest, devoured class. He retakes the test, and this time around, it changes into a C rank, leaving everyone to lose their minds. Even Ting and Jian cannot believe what they are staring at. Jian wants to believe that there is something wrong with the machine. Even the examiners are left confused as to why the rank keeps changing, since they have never seen something like this before. Just then, the system tells them that there has been another anomaly, and Xichen has to retake the test. Meanwhile, the demon heart is already freaking out, and Xichen figures out that his 2 other classes will be above C rank, since his weakest classes are pretty strong as they are. Xichen then switches classes to Rakshasa because he would like to see the full extent of his true power. The demon heart almost shatters when it sees this, and even the sky suddenly becomes cloudy, leaving everyone to start questioning what exactly is happening. Malong and the other 2 are overwhelmed, and they conclude that their dorm has given birth to a god-tier monster. Just then, the screen glitches, and it displays an S-rank potential that shocks everyone to their bones. But the S-rank doesn't stay long, as it starts to glitch repeatedly while displaying a warning sign. It soon displays a triple S-rank potential, and it appears that it wants to display more, but the system loses its functionality with a warning that it has exceeded the system's maximum load. The machine goes up in flames as the examiners rush over in shock in an attempt to make sure that Xichen is safe. Upon entering the grading room, they are left with something unprecedented. The demon heart has burned out, leaving them wondering if it did because of overusage. Xichen turns around and walks off, but he is the only one who knows what happened to the demon heart. Apparently, he pushed too hard and choked the demon heart to death. However, he got something surprising out of it, and this is the fact that he was able to devour the demon's heart. Apparently, the demon heart is an A-rank creature, and it can perceive the power rank of all things within a 100-meter radius. It also provides danger warnings if a threat enters the range. Upon stepping out of the grading room, Xichen activates the demon heart, and just as expected, he is able to see the rank of everyone he is staring at. Xichen admits that it is pretty convenient because he can use this to see the rank of everyone around him. He checks out Ting's rank, and it turns out that he is actually mid-tier C rank, but intentionally hid his true strength. Just then, the examiners step out with the dead demon heart, saying the demon heart died due to excessive strain, and because of this, they suspend the testing for the day. The examiners mention that Xichen's data might be an error, so they are going to report it to the higher-ups. The examiners told those who hadn't been tested to come back the next day, promising that they would have a new device ready by then. Malong and the other 2 rush towards Xichen, worshipping him. They even ask him what he wants to eat, and Xichen suggests that they just return to their dorm. Just then, Jian shows up with his loud mouth, saying he already knew that the machine was glitching because there is no way a loser like Xichen would reach C rank. Jian continues yelling at Xichen, asking him what he plans to do to the demon heart that he broke. He continues saying all the trash things, while Xichen just debates whether he should cripple him because he is always talking. Just then, Ting appears from behind, telling Jian to stand down because they can't be disrespectful toward their teammate. Jian is shocked when Ting addresses Xichen as a teammate, and he is still trying to recover from this when Ting stretches his hand to Xichen, offering him a chance to join his squad so that they can tackle the graduation assessment together. Ting tells Xichen that the highest score in history is going to belong to them, and Xichen stares at him weirdly as he makes his offer. Jian starts freaking out because he knows that if Xichen joins the team, someone has to be kicked out of the team. This leaves him worried because he has no idea how he is going to explain this to his kinsman. It is not hidden knowledge that joining Ting's team guarantees first place in the graduation combat assessment. Jian is pissed at the mere thought that Xichen gets to join when a lot of people have even offered bribes but have not been able to join. However, he knows that he can't go against Ting's wishes, and Jian tries to act all friendly with Xichen. He wears an obvious fake friendly face while tapping Xichen on the shoulders, welcoming him to the team. Without hesitation, Xichen slaps his hand off, telling him that he is not interested in joining their team. Ting and Jian are shocked by Xichen's refusal, and Jian starts screaming at Xichen, telling him that they are the top dogs of the school, and he is basically making a mistake by rejecting them. Xichen confidently tells the dude that whatever they are doesn't concern him, and he walks off, telling them not to bother him from that moment forward because they are pretty noisy. As he walks off, the other students cannot believe that Xichen actually has the courage to refuse Ting, the all-powerful student council president. Some believe that Xichen plans to reach the top by himself, since his test result was mid-tier C rank. Nonetheless, the students are hyped up to see what is going to happen in the end. Ting then tells Jian to chill out, letting him know that Si Chen already has his own ideas. Meanwhile, Long expresses his disappointment that the two couldn't team up because he was looking forward to a new school history record that very year. Ling Yu tells him that the whole situation is more interesting the way it is because Ting was born with a silver spoon, and Si Chen refusing him is a clear declaration of war. Ling Yu tells Long that Ting isn't someone who is easy to deal with. Meanwhile, Jian is still raging about the whole thing, and he believes that Si Chen only got the limelight because of a test error. However, Ting tells him that there is a possibility that the test wasn't wrong. Ting tells Jian that even if there is only a 1 in 100 million chance, he can't allow anyone else to take away his first place. Jian mentions that Si Chen is just a loser student with no combat experience, while they, on the other hand, are elites who have secretly battled in the demon lair with Ting several times. Jian suggests that he go teach Si Chen a lesson on Ting's behalf, but Ting scolds him for assuming that he is such a petty person. Jian quickly apologizes for speaking out of turn, and Ting walks off, telling him that he is not in the mood for karaoke that day. He tells Jian that he and the team members are free to arrange things themselves. However, he lets Jian know that anything he does has nothing to do with him. The moment Jian hears this, he takes the hint that Ting has given him the free hand to deal with Si Chen. 10 minutes later, Jian learns from one of his lackeys that Si Chen isn't in school. Apparently, he had gone home, and the moment Jian heard this, he decided to take action because Si Chen was outside the school, which was the best place. On the other hand, Si Chen is minding his business as he walks through the streets, thinking about his past life. He remembers that it was a guild that first ran into Wrath inside a demon lair, and the guild team was wiped out. After this, Wrath left the dungeon and descended on the human world. This is basically everything he knows as of the moment, and to know where Wrath is in the current life, Si Chen has formulated a plan. However, to start this plan, he needs a large sum of money, and he heads to the Mithril Monster Exchange under the Mithril Guild, which will later become the country's largest material exchange in the future. The weapons and equipment in the hands of Awakeners are key elements determining their strength. The Monster Exchange is the necessary transit station for buying and selling equipment. It is also the fastest way for Si Chen to get money as it stands. Si Chen walks to the counter to present the monster teeth he obtained from the demon lair. The attendant attending to him doesn't take him too seriously because he can see that Si Chen is a student. He tells Si Chen that he has never seen teeth like this before, but the junior attendant, a pink-haired lady, figures out that it is a drop item from the E-rank cloud-type monster. She mentions that according to records, the fangs can be made into an E-rank cloud-type scepter or ground into powder. The rude attendant tells the lady to stop lecturing, and he says there is nothing serious that an E-rank item can do. He mentions that their exchange has always been about the VIP system, and whatever passes through his hands must be high-grade goods of D rank and above. He claims this is why he doesn't recognize the E rank loot. Deep down, the dude is worried about when he is going to be promoted to supervisor because there have been too few high-grade customers of late. He is pissed about the fact that he is always encountering dudes who will provide no benefit for him. He then decides to just push the order to his junior attendant, Lee. As he walks off, he tells Lee to work hard, claiming that he has high hopes for her. Lee then calculates Si Chen's money, and she presents it to him, telling him to keep it safe. It turns out that the fangs were valued at 18,000, and Si Chen realizes that this is enough to settle the rent in the meantime. Lee asks him if there is anything he needs, and Si Chen whips out one of Rakshasa's greatswords, telling her to take a look at it. Lee freaks out in shock when she sees the quality of the greatsword. She admits that she's never seen it, but she believes it is going to be at least B rank or even A rank. The rude attendant rushes back when he sees this, as he talks about how expensive A-grade items are. He mentions that he has been at the guild for so many years and hasn't encountered one before. Just then, a blue-haired man shows up on the scene, telling the dude that he is right because the sword they are looking at is not a B-grade or even an A-grade. The rude attendant immediately put on the best behavior while addressing the blue-haired man as his boss. The boss mentions that the sword is definitely from the Purgatory lands, and as it stands, it is an S-grade equipment. The attendants almost lose their minds when they hear this, and the boss immediately shakes Si Chen's hands, welcoming him as a distinguished guest. He tells Si Chen to follow him to the VIP room, while assuring Si Chen that he is free to mention any requests that he might have. It turns out that Si Chen actually recognizes the boss from his past life, Qing Ji. Upon arriving at Ji's private chambers, he asks Si Chen how he plans to handle the equipment, and Si Chen answers that he wants 1 million. Ji is surprised that he is willing to sell the equipment for just 1 million, telling him that the item is worth tens of millions, since it is S-rank. In fact, Z mentions that he could use it to trigger a frenzy among buyers, which shows how priceless it is. However, Si Chen tells him that what he wants is to use the sword as collateral for a loan of 1 million, which he is going to pay back in full after 1 month. Ji is shocked to learn that Si Chen wants to use an S-rank weapon as collateral for a loan, and this basically tells him that there is no way a random college student would come up with such a brazen idea. Since Si Chen has no intention of selling the sword, Ji wonders if he plans to use it himself later. A lot of questions run through his mind as he wonders if Si Chen is the son of a noble family who is hiding his strength. However, with everything he's seen so far, he can categorically say that Si Chen is not a regular dude. Si Chen assures Ji that he is going to pay back in 1 month and will even add 10% interest to it the following month. He asks Ji what he thinks about the deal, and before he answers, Ji tells Li to leave the room. Ji then mentions that with his deduction, it appears that Si Chen is attending the National Awakener University, and he is about to graduate. Ji says he is aware that the university holds its graduation combat assessment every year, and the year's assessment happens to be exactly 1 month from that day. In addition, the prize money for the first place winner is 1 million, which aligns perfectly with his repayment date and the amount. Z says that with everything so far, it appears that Si Chen is confident that he is going to take first place in the assessment. Ji mentions that he can see how desperate Si Chen is for money because he can just wait for a month to get the prize money, but he decides to mortgage an S-rank item. However, with all the conclusions he's come to, he tells Si Chen that he is going to give him 1.5 million in cash immediately. To make it sweeter, he tells him that it is going to be interest-free, and he tells Si Chen to consider this a gesture of friendship. Si Chen is surprised to hear this, and Z assures him that he is going to keep everything that happened between them a secret. However, if Si Chen has any new trading needs, Z wants him to consider his organization first, promising to offer him the highest tier of privileges. Si Chen is impressed with the fact that Z was able to deduce his background demands from practically zero information. Even after figuring out his predicament, he offered better terms to seek long-term cooperation instead of taking advantage of him. Si Chen finally understands why Z was able to build his organization into the world's #1 exchange in the future. Si Chen figures out that he has to make reliable partners if he wants to eliminate Wrath. Z then forms the Mana contract, and he transfers the money into Si Chen's account. Just then, Z asks Si Chen which weapon he plans to use during the graduation assessment, since he has mortgaged his S-rank weapon. Z lets Si Chen know that they have a bunch of weapons that he can use, even though they are not S-rank. Si Chen shocks Z and Li, and the rude attendant, when he tells them that there is no need for this. He whips out the second sword, telling them that he has another one. As Si Chen leaves, they greet him with all honor, and Z immediately promotes Li to the position of supervisor, since she was the one who attended to Si Chen. This leaves the rude attendant with a lesson he cannot forget. Just then, Si Chen turns around, telling Z that there is something he needs to buy. Later on, Si Chen opts out of the taxi at a train station. He thinks about how money has always been the biggest problem in his past life. When he graduated in his past life, no guild was ready to accept him, and he worked desperately at menial jobs that he could get his hands on just to pay the rent. He and his sister lived the worst lives. Yoon once got admission to the International Central Academy of Arts, but she tore the letter, saying it was too far. Yoon tells Si Chen that all she wants is to stay with her brother forever. Basically, she did this because she didn't want to become a burden. Moments later, Si Chen starts wondering why Yoon hasn't stepped out of the station. Just then, he hears his sister calling his name from behind, reminding him that he should always stay at the exit, not the entrance, whenever he is there to pick her up. Yoon asks her brother if he is confused from overworking himself again. Seeing his sister alive and well, Si Chen freezes in shock, trying to understand if he is seeing things right. It isn't until Yoon challenges him, asking him if he is seeing right, that he finally drags his sister in to hug her. Si Chen smiles brightly because he finally got to see his sister again after 7 years. Yoon almost chokes out from how much he is hugging her, and she tickles him really hard before dumping her bag on him. Yoon mentions that Si Chen has been acting weird for the past couple of days, and she teases him, asking if he confessed to a girl but got rejected instead. Si Chen tells her that he didn't, and she suggests that they start heading home. As they walk through the street, Si Chen is drawn in by his sister's beautiful smile, and he promises that he is never going to allow anything bad to happen to his sister this time around. Meanwhile, Jian and his lackeys are already setting up an ambush for Si Chen, since they know the only road he is going to take when he is heading home. Jian evilly tells his boys to beat Si Chen the moment he shows his face because he wants him to take the consequences of crossing him. One of the lackeys then reminds Jian that they brought too many people from the student council, and he fears that if they hit Si Chen too hard, they might kill him. Jian mentions that his original plan was to teach Si Chen a lesson, but he claims his attitude has gotten on his nerves. Jian wants him beaten half to death and also to cripple him because he wants to make sure he can't participate in the graduation assessment in 2 weeks. Jian boasts about the bad things he is going to do to Si Chen since he is one of the top-tier cloud assassins in the entire school. Meanwhile, Yoon tells Si Chen that he has been acting weird in the past couple of days, and she asks him if it is because of the pressure from the graduation assessment. Yoon tries to motivate her brother, telling him that no matter what, he has to pull himself together because this is the same advice he once gave her. Yoon mentions that life is a long road and opportunities will definitely come later. She even takes it as far as singing for her brother just to motivate him. Si-chen is impressed by how sensitive she is because she basically noticed the change in him the moment they met. Si-chen knows that his sister doesn't even know that he has awakened yet, and she must think they are still living as paupers. Deep down, Yoon thinks her brother is not comfortable talking to her because she is a girl. Meanwhile, Jian and his guys are still in hiding, and they are surprised when they see a girl with him. However, the rotten Jian says this is even more perfect for them, since there are no cameras in the alley, which means they can do what they want to Yoon. Just then, Si-chen catches on to the evil aura emanating from the gang, and he immediately figures out that it is the student council. Si-chen can't believe that they actually dared to come after him and his sister. Si-chen then removes his earpods and inserts them in Yoon's ears, telling her that there is a song he wants her to listen to. Yoon is surprised because she didn't know her brother was a music person, but she doesn't argue about her brother's decision. She figures out that this would help her understand her brother a little bit better. While Yoon is enjoying the music and her back is turned toward danger, Si-chen walks toward the council members. The council members rush towards him, but Si-chen switches to his lightning assassin class as he prepares to engage them. He remembers how he lost his last family member in his past life, and he only got to see her again after he returned from death. Si-chen is overwhelmed with anger because this is his first reunion with his sister, but they dare ruin it. The first dude that gets close gets kicked in the head, and he is sent flying with his head crashing to the ground, shocking the rest of the team. However, it is already too late for them, and Si-chen runs through them with powerful punches as he knocks them to the ground mercilessly. While Si-chen is punching through the bad guys, Yoon is busy enjoying the good music that her brother put on. One of them tries to launch a counterattack, but his hand is broken in the worst possible way. He screams out in pain, and while he is still crying about his arm, he gets punched hard in the face. The dude flies into two of his colleagues, and at this point, Jian is already losing his mind because this wasn't how he envisioned the whole thing. He never expected Si-chen to be this strong, but there is no way forward for them, again, because they have already wronged him and they need to pay the price for it. As Si-chen makes his way toward him, he tries to make his stand, boasting about who he is. But a punch to the face disfigures his face immediately, as blood splatters everywhere. The force from the punch is powerful enough to send him flying into the distance, but before he even lands, Si-chen meets him halfway, delivering another punch to his head that almost shatters his skull. John's teeth fly out of his mouth, but this is the least of his worries as he crashes into a wall headfirst. With his head turned upside down and his torn trousers overshadowing his manhandled body, Si-chen walks toward him, reminding him that he warned him not to bother him. Si-chen picks up the knife that Jian dropped, and he raises the knife toward him with an overwhelming killing intent, while asking him if he is too deaf to understand basic comprehension skills. Tears drop from John's eyes with the realization that Si-chen's test results were real, and he is about to lose his life because of his arrogance. He apologizes to Si-chen, but Si-chen tells him to shut his mouth, assuring him that a single sound from him will cost him his life. Jen can see the seriousness in Si-chen's eyes, which tells him that Si-chen is definitely not lying. The amount of killing intent radiating from Si-chen's body leaves Jian asking himself if Si-chen is truly a regular student. Si-chen then tells Jian that he should make sure he adheres to everything he is about to say. Si-chen tells him that no matter what, he and his gang should never come near his family again. He tells Jian that if he so much as appears in his sister's line of sight, he is going to kill all of them without hesitation. After delivering this fierce warning, Si-chen drops the dude and walks back to his sister, who is still busy enjoying the music. In fact, the song is so good that it causes her to shed tears. Even though she saw her brother some days ago, this song makes her feel like he is going through a lot. Just when she's about to yell at her brother, she turns around to see her brother holding a gift box, telling Yoon that it is for her. Sitting in the box is a monoholographic drawing pen, and Yoon is left totally in shock because it is even the latest model. Yoon grabs the pen in shock, saying it is over 10,000, and she asks her brother where he got the money. Yoon stares intently at the pen, wondering if they should just return it because it is pretty expensive. Unknown to her, her brother had made a secret vow to protect her no matter what. Meanwhile, Jian and his gang members are packed behind trash cans, while they beg for help. Upon arriving home, Yoon tries out the pen, and she is blown away by it since it can even draw holographic images out of thin air. Si-chen is also happy that his sister liked the pen, but while Si-yoon is having fun with the pen, Si-chen is enjoying fried egg noodles that his sister cooked. After he is done eating, Yoon reminds her brother that they still have rent to pay, so they can't even be spending lavishly. Si-chen shocks her, telling her that he has already paid the year's rent in full. Yoon is shocked to hear this, and Si-chen tells her that he went into a small business partnership with a friend, and he made some money from it. However, his sister doesn't believe this, since she knows how much of a liar his brother can be. Nonetheless, she is glad that her brother is smiling because she hasn't seen her brother smile like this in a long while. Yoon then moves closer to her brother to offer him comfort, telling him that no matter what happens, he should make sure he doesn't push himself too hard. Later on, Ting learns about what happened to Jian, and he is surprised because 60% of his body was fractured, and even the best healer that they have can't make him recover within a month. Ting mentions that he never thought Jian would go after Si-Chen only to get mopped up. One of Ting's subordinates tells Ting that, with the way things are, Jian is going to miss the graduation assessment. Ting replies that he doesn't really care about this because it just means that his team is missing a burden with trash skills. Just then, Ting's uncle Gong Xuan enters the room. Xuan is the director of employment at the university. Xuan tells Ting that he has personally confirmed the internal results of the last rank test, and it is confirmed that he is C rank. He tells Ting that he is the only guy in the whole school with a higher rank than him. Xuan mentions that Ting's father has invited the vice chairman of the alliance to observe his graduation performance, and because of this, they can't allow anyone to steal his shine. Xuan plans to step in to help, but Ting tells his uncle that he worries too much, asking him if he really thinks he used his full strength during the test. Ting tells Xuan that he doesn't have to worry, promising that on the day of the combat assessment, he is going to let everyone know that he is the true strongest. Later that night, Si-Chen returns to his dorm after he finishes his 100-kilometer training procedure. Si-Chen is relieved that he has solved his money issue, and with how smoothly things are, he believes that he should be able to launch the official plan after graduation. However, his next task is to successfully win the 1 million champion scholarship from the graduation assessment and pay off the loan from Ji. Si-Chen aims to honor the contract with Ji no matter what because he has a lot of things to ask him in the future. Si-Chen lies back on his bed thinking about the assessment, which is less than a month away. He decides to sleep and level up in the dream lair as many times as he can before then. Upon entering the dream lair, Si-Chen heads to the tower. Based on his test result, he knows that his weakest class reached C rank, but his strongest class, the Rakshasa, failed to display. Even though Rakshasa is S rank, he can't utilize its full power just yet. This leaves him wondering how much power he can unleash. This basically tells him that the ranks corresponding to the remaining two classes, the Lightning Assassin and Rakshasa, are unclear. However, he plans to test it out in the tower, and using the key, he opens the door to the next floor. He wonders what the scenery inside the magic tower will be like, and the moment he steps in, he is shocked. Si-Chen falls to his knees because of the immense gravity on the floor. Apparently, the floor is a fallen star, and the surface gravity is 10 Gs. Since the door he came in through has vanished, he realizes that he has to eliminate the floor's boss to open it again. In the environment, he knows that he can unleash only 30% of his strength at most. Si-Chen realizes that he has to adapt to the floor as fast as possible, and just then, a beast, the Phantom Lion, a B-rank warrior, emerges. Si-Chen immediately switches classes to the Lightning Assassin class as he prepares to engage the beast. The lion jumps at him and he tries to cut him, but he misses. He realizes that his body is so heavy and he has to find a way to end things quickly. Si-Chen goes after the lion again and he tries to hit it at a vital spot, but he fails. This is thanks to the high gravity, which has severely impacted his speed and attack precision. Si-Chen is worried that the assassin class has lost almost all of its advantages, but the lion is moving with ease. Si-Chen wonders if what he is currently facing is the monster's strength level inside the Purgatory Magic Tower. Before he knows it, he gets bitten on the arm, and before his arm is crushed, he switches to the Rakshasa's class. Surprisingly, he realizes that different classes have different core advantages, and close quarters combat must rely on the warrior class with its high strength and stamina bonuses. With Rakshasa's strength, he is able to break free, and he punches the lion to the ground. He then increases his strength level to the max, thanks to the high gravity on the floor. Si-Chen increases the power of his punch by 60 times, and he delivers a powerful punch that shatters the ground with the beast. Si-Chen exhausted almost all of his strength, but he was able to kill the beast with the single most powerful punch he could conjure. Si-Chen lies on the ground, totally exhausted, and he levels up to level 11, and he is also given a star. Basically, every star on the card represents a multiplier of the stats, and the more stars, the higher the strength after class change. The Purgatory Rakshasa has more stars, which means the amplification is higher, and he figures out that the rank after class change should be higher than the Lightning Assassin. Si-Chen is surprised that taking down a B-rank monster took everything he had. He realizes that both of his current classes haven't broken through the B-rank limit yet. Just then, it dawns on him that the system didn't show the devourable mark after he killed the monster. In addition, the gate to the next floor hasn't opened, which immediately tells him that he hasn't killed the floor boss after he just killed a single monster with all of his strength. Just as he feared, a portal opens, and a bunch of phantom lions emerge from the portal. Before he knows it, a lion grabs onto him, biting down on his shoulder really hard. He is still trying to free himself when the rest of the mob latches onto him, cutting him with claws. This is when he understands the true meaning of Rakshasa's words, which tells him that once the door opens, what is going to welcome him is endless pain. As the beasts tear into him without mercy, Si-Chen remembers Rakshasa's words that he must endure everything. The beasts tear into him till he wakes back up in real life, panting like crazy. He realizes that everything he feels in the dream world is just like the real world. He realizes that to become stronger, there are no shortcuts, which means his lonely journey to conquer has only just begun. Later on, the students head to the auditorium for the team formation ceremony in preparation for the graduation combat assessment, and heading the panel is Juan. The students learn that the higher-ups are coming to watch the graduation combat assessment, and they realize that this is why the rules for the year's assessment have changed. Apparently, in the previous years, there were no minimum requirements for team size or rank, but this time, every team must have at least 5 members. However, one of them must be high E rank or above. This leaves everyone wondering if this is going to improve the entertainment value, but it appears that Juan has something else in mind. Just then, Juan tells the students that the instructions for the assessment have already been sent to their wristbands. He tells them to check their wristbands and complete their team formation as soon as possible. Everyone quickly checks the information sent to them, and just then, Malong notices something weird. On the information panel, it has been stated that Si Chen is only a low-tier E rank. Everyone is shocked by this, since Si Chen's test showed a C rank. Most of the students immediately concluded that the test result was fake because the demon heart glitched out. With this, it is pretty obvious that no one would want to team up with him, since the graduation assessment is so important and no one would want to carry a few low-level deadweights. The students start making fun of him because he rejected Ting's offer. However, Ting already knows that his uncle had a hand in what is currently happening. Juan smiles evilly as he plans to show his nephew that there are things that require power, and he plans to make sure that Ting's opponents don't even have the qualifications to compete. All the students start rushing over to Ting, asking him to add them to his team, while mentioning their achievements over the years. One even asks to be Ting's lapdog, showing how desperate they are to be included in Ting's team. Chung is forced to become security for the team, telling them to back off because they can only take one more person in the team. 30 minutes later, they formed a team, and other people had also formed teams. However, Si Chen and his comrades remain without a team. Zuo cries in horror because they only have 4 students on the team and they need at least 5 guys. Zuo wonders if this is how they are going to miss the graduation assessment because they couldn't get themselves a team. Malong mentions that the whole thing is weird because Si Chen's rank is definitely not the lowest. Xiang Yu mentions that there is a possibility that their dorm is being targeted. It is known that the assessment is everyone's chance to show what they are capable of doing and to get a good job opportunity. In the final assessment, the number of monsters in the demon's lair will be determined by the number of team members. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that the more people one has on a team, the easier it is to get a high score. Nonetheless, even if other students can't get into Ting's team, they are still not willing to group themselves with low-ranked people like him. He, Malong, and Yu are basically the lowest low E rank in the whole school. Suddenly, another team shows up asking Zuo to join their team because they are only missing one more person. They remind him that if he doesn't join them, he might not qualify for the graduation assessment. Seeing this, Si Chen realizes that they are about to be abandoned by everyone, and they will eventually lose their qualification to compete. Surprisingly, Zuo tells the suitors that he is not interested because he and his guys already promised to stick together, so there is no way he's going to abandon them. Even Si Chen is surprised when Zuo rejects the dudes who want him and the guys flip him off, telling him to do whatever he wants because he is definitely going to regret it. In no time, almost everyone has formed a team, leaving Malong and his team of low rankers. Even though they are only missing one person, there is no one ready to join them. Si Chen then turns around to stare at Juan, and he realizes that he is a C-rank warrior. Suddenly, it dawns on him that Juan has the same surname as Ting, which obviously means something. Si Chen wonders if the dude thinks he is a threat to Ting. This lets Si Chen know that those with power get to do whatever it is that they want to do. However, this doesn't concern Si Chen because he is prepared to participate in the graduation assessment. Si Chen loses his cool and switches to his lightning assassin class, with the aim of taking a route no one really wants to take. The moment lightning starts to course through his body, everyone knows that something is up. Basically, assessments are not the only way to prove one's strength, and this is because the Awakener schools have always had a special tradition to facilitate students' mastery of their classes. Apparently, students can initiate a one-on-one challenge to prove their strength in front of everyone. However, many refuse this, but Si Chen is pretty sure that Ting won't refuse. Si Chen is on the verge of challenging him when Ling Yu enters the room, asking Si Chen if his team is still missing people because she would like to join. Ling Yu mentions that she wants to participate in the school's graduation assessment that year, revealing that she already reached D rank back in middle school, so she is pretty sure she is not going to be a burden to the team. The students freak out when they see this, since Ling Yu is not just any random girl. Even Chung yells at her, asking her what the hell it is she is trying to do. Apparently, Ling Yu is an exchange student from another school, and the students are surprised that she is willing to participate in their school's graduation assessment. They know that she has a mysterious aura behind her, but it is pretty obvious that she is a genius. Even Juan is losing his mind when he sees this, and he tells Lingyu that, as an exchange student, she is technically not qualified to participate in their school's graduation assessment. He adds that since Lingyu transferred to their school, she hasn't taken a rank test, and he has never seen a test report that proves her rank. Juan tells Lingyu that her participation in the assessment is against the regulations. Suddenly, Long appears in the room via teleportation powers, shocking everyone in the room as he speaks out. Long agrees with Juan, saying he is right, and he reminds Lingyu that she is only at the school for a short exchange, so she can't join the fun. Even Si Chen is completely shocked because he's always known that the principal is a warrior, but he never knew that he has teleportation abilities. Long tells Lingyu that if she participates in the test, it is going to ruin the fairness of everything because the assessment only has meaning if real strength is shown. Lingyu nervously agrees with him, and Si Chen tries to check their ranks, but even the Demon Heart couldn't display their ranks since they have a giant question mark sitting on their heads. Juan excitedly agrees with Long, saying their school has such prestige because they have always followed the rules. Long then mentions that the purpose of the university is to cultivate superclass awakeners and give them the best stage to display themselves to ensure a continuous and stable supply of awakener talents to the world. He explains that the graduation assessment is a tradition of decades and it is also one of the most important turning points in a student's life. He asks Juan how the school is going to take responsibility if a student loses the opportunity to showcase what they can do, thanks to some stupid special factors. The moment Juan hears this, he realizes that Long is throwing a jab at him. Juan is surprised to hear this, since Long has never concerned himself with the affairs of the school. This leaves him wondering if Long is doing all of these because of Si Chen. Just then, Juan decides to back off because nothing good is going to come out of arguing with Long. With this, he knows that this is where his help for Ting stops. Basically, the high-ranked students have all formed their teams, so Si Chen is left with trash, and with this, Juan is confident that Ting should be able to win the assessment. Juan then bows his head to Long, telling him that he is right, admitting that the employment office's lack of consideration has caused some students to be left out. Juan then changes the instruction, saying teams with fewer than 5 members or teams without a high E-rank member can also submit their registration. He mentions that the doors of the graduation combat assessment are open to everyone. With this, Si Chen and his team form a team, and Zuo celebrates because they finally have what it takes to participate. Malong eggs Si Chen forward, telling him to be their captain, and on the other hand, Long lets Lingyu know that he is surprised that she has a strong interest in Si Chen. On one side is the strongest team in the school, led by the strongest guy in the school, while on the other is Si Chen and his 3 bot teammates. Long is curious to see which demon lair they are going to choose and how many points they are going to score in the end of it all. After the team formation is finally complete, the old examiner tells the students to pick the demon lair that they want. Just then, he receives a notification that a team has already made their pick, and he is surprised that they didn't even waste time. Everyone is left in complete shock when they realize that it is Si Chen. However, the main shock hits them when they realize what Si Chen chose. Even Malong and the rest of his teammates yell at him, asking him if he's gone crazy. But Si Chen remains unfazed. Apparently, the graduation combat assessment is the first time students form teams to enter a real demon lair, and students obtain points by killing monsters inside the lair. For completion rate, the students are awarded 10 points, but 1 point is deducted for every surviving monster. As for killing the boss of the lair, they are awarded 20 points, but there is no point whatsoever for failure. There is also a completion time, and if the students can clear it in 1 hour, they get 20 points, but after 1 hour, 1 point is deducted every 5 minutes. Basically, different Devil's Cave ranks have different raid difficulties and different score multipliers. An F-rank demon lair gives a 1.5 multiplier, and an E-rank gives a ×2 multiplier. If an F-rank demon lair is chosen, the max score the students can obtain is 75 points. However, an E-rank demon lair can help reach 100 points. It is said that the team that gets the highest score will receive an Empire Guild offer. The team's MVP will also receive a management position at the Empire Guild and 1 million bonus. The highest score in history is 90 points, and it was created back then by the school's genius, the current leader of the Empire Regiment, when he graduated. This basically means the difficulty of an E-rank demon lair is huge, and it requires at least 3 D-rank awakeners to raid it. However, for the current year, they believe that Ting might actually challenge the school's history record. Even Ting is watching what demon lair to pick when they realize that Si Chen has picked a D-rank demon lair. However, his team members still have to confirm their agreement to fully accept the selection. Meanwhile, his team members are freaking out when they see this, and they ask Si Chen if he's gone crazy because there is no way he would go ahead to pick something like this. Zuo grabs his head in frustration, wondering how he managed to get into the same thing as a madman. Zuo starts asking himself if it is not too late to leave the team, and Malong rushes over to ask Si Chen if he is aware of the fact that he picked a D-rank demon lair. Si-chen assures them that he is aware, and he has already thought about it over and over again. Surprisingly, Ting picks the same rank as Si-chen, as he is not about to lose out. However, all of his team members agree to this immediately, while Si-chen's colleagues are losing their minds. Everyone watching believes that it is going to be a good year for a nice battle. However, they all assume that Si-chen is a loser who doesn't even know his own capabilities, but went ahead to pick a rank that is way above what he can handle. However, they conclude that Si-chen and his team already believe that they are going to take last place, which is why they are just trying to do whatever suits them. One of Ting's team members mentioned that since it is a D-rank demon lair, there is no way Si-chen's teammates would agree to join. In fact, they are convinced that the team that just formed is about to scatter in the blink of an eye, which is quite miserable. Looking at everything at play, Malong can see that Si-chen's expression is that of someone who is really determined. Malong notices the powerful aura emanating from his body, leaving him to wonder when it started showing. After carefully assessing the situation, Malong agrees to be a part of his team. He tells Si-chen that they have made it through 4 years together, and because of this, he is willing to accompany him to the end. You also figure out that they are in last place on the rankings, so it doesn't really matter which rank they choose. He figures out that it is much better for them to even enter a D-rank demon lair to see how the world is. Zuo even screams out in annoyance that they have all left him behind when he is clearly the boss of the trash dorm. Because of this, he jumps in to agree without considering the risk. With this, every of the members on the team confirms the selection, and Si-chen apologizes to his team members, telling them that he chose a D-rank demon lair so he can get the MVP. However, he encourages them, saying it is better they now get the highest score in history since he has forced them along on his journey. Suddenly, Ting appears behind them, telling Si-chen that the MVP will be going to him. Right in front of everyone, Ting tells Si-chen that the strongest in the school can only be one person, and this is going to be him. Even Ling Yu is surprised when she sees this, and she admits that this is the first time she's seen such an expression on Si-chen's face. However, she is glad that the struggle between the two is finally out in the open. Long tells her that being young is actually nice because the fear of the unknown is not there. Ling Yu then tells Long that it is a bit too confident of Si-chen to have picked a D-rank demon lair. He mentions that even if Si-chen is C-rank, trying to lead a team solo to raid a D-rank demon lair is quite impossible. Even though the multiplier for the D-rank demon lair is ×3, it is several times more difficult than an E-rank demon lair. She believes that Si-chen didn't make the optimal solution with his team's current strength. Long mentions that there are only about 2 weeks for the assessment, and it is impossible to achieve an overwhelming leap in this amount of time. However, he can only hope that Si-chen and the others put up a decent show by then. Not long after this, Si-chen makes his roommates go on runs with him. Since they are not used to it, they tire quickly and they complain to him. Malong tells him that there are others inside the function rooms practicing elemental power and monster simulation combat, but he has no idea why Si-chen is taking them through a physical course every day. The others agree with him, telling him that their graduation exam isn't a triathlon, so they see no use in what they are doing. Si-chen lets them know that at the current stage, no matter how much they practice elemental power and virtual combat, it is basically meaningless. In the end of it all, he tells them that it is theoretical practice. Si-chen then explains to them that what they are going to need in the demon lair is not the theories or combo skills that they have learned, but their instinct. Si-chen says what is going to matter in the demon lair is the stamina, explosiveness, and reaction speed that they are currently training because this is what is going to improve their body's instinct. He mentions that the help provided by the school's simulation training is really limited, and the only thing truly useful is entering a real demon lair for combat training. However, this is not accessible to ordinary people like them. He explains that those with advantages and privileges have always been extraordinary people just like Ting, and they are going to widen the gap with outsiders at all costs just to make sure that they stay at the top forever. Basically, from birth, they have possessed things others can't even touch in a lifetime. While he is saying this, Ting is actually going on a demon lair raid with his teammates. Zuo then frantically asks him what people like them are supposed to do. Si-chen tells him that the solution is to enter the Empire Guild with the highest score. They are to cross the finish line before those with an advantage, revealing that the graduation assessment is everyone's only chance to overtake on the curve. Si-chen admits that it is also his best chance to overtake on the curve, and he assures the team that he is going to do his best to deliver what he promised, which is a win in the graduation assessment. After the motivation, the team takes their training seriously, and they stick to the physical session every day. At the same time, Ting is spending all of his time in demon lairs meant for training. After undergoing physical training during the day, Si-chen still heads into the dream lair in the night to fight monsters. With 1 day left, he has leveled up to level 16 with intense battle sessions. Finally, the assessment day arrives, and the students are welcomed to the arena. There is an assessment drone for each team, and this drone will accompany them into the demon lair. Si-chen's teammates are seriously prepared for the assessment, and the same can be said for Si-chen. The drone tells everyone to make sure that their wristbands and equipment are worn in the right order. Meanwhile, at the school's administrative building, Long welcomes Ting's father, Gong Lin, who is the co-founder of the Empire Guild. The moment the students spot Lin, they are all blown away, since he is a reputable man. However, they notice that there is still another man in the car behind them. They are totally curious about who it is when Long and Lin even walk to the car to invite this person out. Just then, a gentle man steps out of the car and he turns out to be Carl Cavendish, vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance. The students freak out when they see this since it is a pretty big deal for the vice chairman of the alliance to come to their school. This is a really special occasion since seeing the two big shots might not even happen in most people's lifetime. The students finally understand why the entire administrative area was cleared out. Basically, the Guild Alliance is currently the most powerful organization in the world, and the school being able to attract their attention means a lot. Long tells Carl that the broadcast is about to begin, so he should just head in. Zhuan explains that there are 184 students participating in the year's final graduation combat assessment, and they are divided into 28 teams. Among the 28 teams, 23 picked F-rank Demon Lair, while 3 teams chose E-rank Cave and 2 chose the D-rank Demon Lair. The secretary of the Alliance, Sigrid, expresses her surprise that there are teams that pick the D-rank Demon Lair. She mentions that D-rank caves are considered dangerous even for professional guild raid teams, and she asks the principal if they have really educated the students about the dangers of the caves. Zhuan assures Sigrid that they explained everything to the students beforehand. He mentions that since the students lack practical combat experience, the majority of them are at the lowest E rank. Basically, they can barely handle regular monsters in an F rank cave. However, he mentions that they are going to struggle really hard against a boss monster. Zhuan lets it be known that the boss monster's strength is far superior to ordinary monsters of the same rank, so the students must go all out just to defeat an F-rank lord. However, the situation in an E-rank demon cave is completely different. He mentions that the strength of every monster in an E-rank cave is identical to that of an F-rank boss monster. While he is explaining this, the team that entered the E-rank caves is already freaking out because it completely exceeds their expectations. Zhuan mentions that raiding an E-rank Devil's Cave is simply an impossible task for most students. Sigrid then asks if there are any protective measures if the students encounter danger. Zhuan assures Sigrid that the students are their most precious resource, and because of this, armed personnel from the Empire Guild Regiment are stationed outside every demon cave to monitor the students. Zhuan tells Sigrid that if an extremely dangerous situation is detected, the armed personnel will immediately intervene. In addition, he mentions that the examinees' wristbands are equipped with a teleportation function, and if the students decide to give up on the assessment, they will be immediately teleported out of the demon cave. After hearing this, Sigrid is surprised that there are still teams that chose the more difficult cave. With this, she has no choice but to admit that the school is filled with talent. Sigrid mentions that she is looking forward to the students' performance, and deep down, Zhuan is also interested in seeing how many minutes Si Chen and his team can last. He stares at them from the screen, and he is confident that Si Chen and his guys will soon run out of the cave in no time. Meanwhile, Si Chen and his team have been deployed to the Cloud Forest, which is a freezing wasteland. They soon spot strange monkeys staring at them from above, shocking them. Apparently, the monkeys are called the Ghost Bat Monkeys, and they are D-rank monsters. Si Chen tells the team that the monkeys excel at group attacks, and their aerial dive speed is pretty fast. He tells them that they need to stay on constant alert for their sudden dive attacks. The moment the team turns around, the monkeys lunge at them, and Si Chen is the first to catch on to this. He immediately warns the team, telling them that the monkeys are coming. Surprisingly, the trio is able to dodge the monkeys' attacks, leaving them completely shocked. It dawns on them that their training actually paid off, but by the time they look up, Si Chen has single-handedly killed 3 monkeys as if it were nothing. Si Chen then tells the trio to prioritize protecting themselves because, as it stands, they don't stand a chance against the monkeys. He tells his colleagues to leave the rest to him, and just then, they are attacked again. However, they are able to dodge instinctively, and Zuo finally realizes that this is why Si Chen had them train their reaction speed and explosiveness. He realizes that Si Chen never expected them to provide any help whatsoever, but their training was to make sure that they could protect themselves. Zuo can't believe that he has been the boss of the dorm for so long, but now he has to rely on Si Chen to carry him to graduation. Zuo watches in awe as Si Chen cuts down monkeys like they are nothing, and no matter how many monkeys there are, they all end up getting skewered. Zuo initially didn't believe Malong when he told them that Si Chen is now strong, but seeing everything with his own eyes, he realizes that Malong wasn't lying. In fact, with the type of strength that Si Chen is displaying, it doesn't appear as if he is a regular school student like them. This convinces Zuo that Si Chen is a battle-hardened warrior, but he is curious to know when Si Chen suddenly became that reliable. This leaves him with one conclusion, and this is the fact that he's been left behind. Just then, another monkey dives on top of them and you warn the rest of the team. Zuo loses it, and he grabs the monkey in anger. He holds on to the monkey, telling his friends that they can't continue relying on Si-chen to help them. He reminds them that this isn't Si-chen's graduation assessment alone because they are all in it. Zuo's motivation hits the right spot, and Yu unleashes his power, grabbing the monkey with his vine powers. However, the monkey easily breaks free, releasing a massive force that sends Zuo crashing to the ground. You are shocked that the monster was able to break free from his power, but before they lose all hope, Malong freezes the monkey with his power, and he suggests that they all attack together now that the monkey is slow. Yu unleash his combo skill and lock the monkey down with it. The rest is then left for Zuo to do, and he hurls fireballs at the monkey. This leaves a massive impact, but not enough to kill the monkey, and Zuo continues shooting fireballs at the monkey. You soon tell him that he can no longer hold down the monkey with his power. Even Malong lets Zuo know that he is already at his limit, and Zuo decides that the best thing he can do is to go all out. Zuo creates a giant fireball with everything he has, and he drops it on the monkey. This generates a crazy explosion on impact, releasing a massive shockwave that even sends his teammates staggering backwards. By the time the smoke clears off, the assistant drone congratulates them on successfully killing a ghost bat monkey. The trio wants to celebrate this, but they are too exhausted to even stand. They crash into the snow, and Zuo finally looks up to tease Si-chen, telling him that it was a piece of cake to have killed the monkey. However, by the time he looks up, Si-chen is drenched in monkey blood. Si-chen smiles at Zuo, commending him for a job well done. The assistant drone then congratulates them, telling them that they have killed all the monkeys within the cave. On the outside, Zhuan is losing his mind as this is the last thing he expects to happen. He can't believe that students with zero combat experience were able to kill a D-rank monster, which is way above their level. Meanwhile, Long and Lin are completely focused on the match. Just then, Carl speaks up, saying Si-chen's performance is excellent, while adding that Si-chen actually looks like an old acquaintance. Carl proudly mentions that he is going to remember Si-chen's name, and hearing this, Lin is already losing his mind. Zhuan notices that Si-chen is already taking all the attention, and he quickly distracts them, telling everyone in the room to focus on Ting's team, who also chose D-rank. He mentions that Ting's team has already reached the middle of the cave. Sigrid admits that Ting's team coordination is pretty smooth, which makes it seem like a professional guild raid team. Carl also watches a bit, and he makes his comment saying the quality of the year's graduates isn't bad. Zhuan is glad that they are already getting interested in the whole thing, but Zhuan actually has another thing planned out. In Ting's cave, they are going up against miasma poison mushroom monsters. The team works together pretty well to take down the monsters. The cleric does her job, healing wounded team members, while the dude responsible for pulling aggro also does as told. Ting, on the other hand, is left to finish off the job by slicing the monsters in half after they have been restrained. Ting's team is able to clear out the monsters much more easily because they are the same ones that they encountered during their training. The students are glad that they are on Ting's side because the whole exam was arranged by his uncle, which shows just how much easier life is once one has the right backer. With the way things are going, the team is convinced that they are going to come out on top. After wiping out the small fries, Ting tells his team to follow him because it is time to take out the monster boss. At the same time, Si-chen's team has made it to the apex of the demon cave where they find a D-rank ice ghost ape in the distance. The ape is so big that Zuo admits that a slap from it will kill him several times over. The gorilla is enjoying a meal of bat monkeys when it spots the team staring at it. It immediately drops its food and it dashes toward them at an alarming rate. The other three rush off in fear while Si-chen stands his ground. Si-chen jumps and kicks the gorilla in the face, and as it flies off into the distance, Si-chen meets it halfway with a lightning dagger to slice it into numerous pieces. Ma-long and the others are left in total shock as Si-chen was able to do this with ease yet again. However, Si-chen is not impressed because the experience points dropped by the gorilla are too small to celebrate for a monster that calls itself the Lord of the Cave. In addition, the loot it dropped is just trash, and Si-chen is thinking about this when he hears Zuo screaming out monastones. He turns around to see the trio rushing toward a tree hollow, which has a bulk load of monastones hidden inside it. The stones are so big that the trio is already thinking about how rich they are going to be. Zuo stretches his hand to grab the stones, but before Si-chen can warn them, it is already done. The moment they touch the stone, it unleashes a massive ice burst bomb that freezes everything over. Even the assistant drone was frozen over, causing it to stop broadcasting. It turns out that this was all Zhuan's plan, and he is glad that they actually fell for the trap. He strokes his mustache, thinking about how Si-chen's graduation assessment journey has finally come to an end. Carl then mentions that, as it stands, the students' lives are already in danger, and Zhuan quickly agrees to evacuate them. However, Long cuts in, telling Zhuan not to do anything but give the students a bit more time. Lin and Zhuan are shocked when they hear this, and Long explains that the wristbands they are wearing monitor their physical condition, so as it stands, their vital signs are perfectly normal. In addition, there are no reports of them having any thoughts of forfeiting, so the right to leave the battlefield remains in the hands of the students, not the examiners. Back in the cave, everyone has frozen up except for Malong, and this is because he is also a cloud type, so he has some resistance to freezing. Without him, they would have been completely wiped out, and just then, he hears an evil laughter from above. He looks up to see a scary entity staring down on him, and this happens to be the true lord of the demon cave. Malong freaks out because he's seen this monster before in the encyclopedia, and it is a cloud mage that possesses both control and attack skills, which are powerful enough to manipulate ice and snow. It is a cruel monster that likes to toy with its prey until they die, and this monster is the Frostbone Skeleton King. Malong figures out that the ice bomb from earlier was the king's trap, and Malong immediately comes to the quick conclusion that there is no way he is handling the beast all by himself. He stands up and dashes off towards Si-Chen, since he is the only one who can give them a bit of a chance against C-rank monsters. Just as he is about to reach where Si-Chen is, the Frost King hits him in the heel with an ice spear, causing him to crash to the ground in pain. While groaning in pain, the Frost King is having a laugh. Malong's wristband warns him about the injury, and asks him if he would like to forfeit the match, but he refuses, and he starts the process of breaking Si-Chen out of the ice. He unleashes his purification spell, which unleashes energy to remove the debuff. Malong knows that as long as Si-Chen breaks free, they have a chance. However, the Frost King hits him in the arm with another ice spear that causes him severe pain. He crashes to the ground again, which halts the purification process. While he is crying in pain, the Frost King is busy laughing at him. The Frost King starts conjuring a bunch of ice spikes, which he plans to finish the job with. The wristband warns him repeatedly, telling him that he is losing blood, so he is advised to forfeit the assessment. However, Malong refuses this offer as he thinks about the bad times he's been through, which is technically because he was weak. However, he finally has a chance to do some good, and he is not about to waste it. He has always been left behind, ignored, mocked, bullied, and treated unfairly. He thinks about how they have risked their lives just to get there, and they finally have a chance to change their fate. With everything that has happened so far, Malong has no intention of giving up whatsoever. Malong continues with the purification spell, and at the same time, the ice spikes fly toward him at great speed. While in the ice trap, Si-Chen has also been trying to break free internally. Malong puts everything into the spell, and just as he is about to be impaled by the spikes, Si-Chen breaks out with his lightning speed and he grabs Malong out of harm's way, shocking the Frost King. Si-Chen takes Malong to safety, and Malong expresses his surprise that Si-Chen still had to break himself free from the ice trap. However, Si-Chen lets him know that he was a huge help. He asks Malong if his wounds are not too serious, and Malong tells him that they are not serious. In fact, he has even stopped the bleeding, and Malong mentions that they can't afford to get frozen by the Frost King again. Just then, Si-Chen looks up to see the monster conjuring a massive ice bomb that freaks Malong out. Malong screams in horror, asking Si-Chen how the monster is able to cast such a massive bomb while wondering how they are supposed to dodge it. The Frost King doesn't hold back as it lets go of the bomb, hitting the two. This leaves a massive explosion, and the monster concludes that they are done for. By the time the ice dust clears off, the two remain unharmed. It turns out that Si-Chen had activated the Infernal Death King, which is also a cloud class, to negate the Frost King's attack. Both Malong and the Frost King freak out when they see Si-Chen's changed appearance, which is quite unexpected. Malong asks Si-Chen how he is able to do this when he is supposed to be a lightning assassin. This is when it dawns on Malong that Si-Chen might be one of the very rare dual-class awakeners. Just then, Si-Chen starts to change his class to Rakshasa, and he apologizes to Malong, telling him that his initial miscalculation put the three of them in danger. The moment Si-Chen transforms into Rakshasa, he assures Malong that the fight is over. Malong almost loses his mind when he sees this because he knows the implications of what is in front of him. Generally, an awakener can only awaken a single class, but in extremely rare cases, which is a 1 in 10 million chance, an awakener might awaken 2 classes, and these people are known as dual-class awakeners. In the entire world, there are only 10 known dual-class awakeners. Basically, once such a talent is discovered, it immediately becomes the target of intense recruitment by all guild raid teams. However, Si-Chen doesn't possess just 1 or 2 classes. Malong has witnessed 3 already, and he can sense that the 3 classes are insanely strong. Meanwhile, Si-Chen is maxing out the class's stats because he wants to make sure he one-shots the Frost King. Once Si-Chen feels like he is ready, he lunges toward the Frost King with a sword imbued with an overwhelming amount of aura. Malong sees this and realizes that the monster's scary aura from before in no way compares to what Si-Chen is currently wielding. As the blade is about to hit, Si-Chen activates a skill, the Triple Gravity Strike, which packs enough power to completely cut the dude in half. This destroys the monster's essence, and all that is left that crashes to the ground is nothing but bones. By killing the Lord of the Cave, Si-Chen is awarded 5,000 achievement points and he also levels up. He also gets an icebone spike as loot. Malong commends him, telling him that he is pretty impressive to have taken out a C-rank Lord monster with just one strike. Si-Chen then reminds Malong that Yu and Zuo are still frozen, and he asks him if he still has the energy to break them out of the ice. Malong immediately dashes off because he completely forgot about the two. While Malong is away, Si-Chen gets the option to devour the Frost King, and he takes it. Si-Chen is pleased to have acquired a new Cloud Mage class, and this is also the first time he has devoured a class outside of the Dream Lair. Si-Chen turns around and notices that the camera drone was frozen by the ice burst the Frost King used earlier, which means his abilities are still a secret. Since there is still a lot of time on their hands, Si-Chen believes that they should get a good score. Just then, he is informed that he has obtained a star for the Lightning Assassin, which shocks him. Meanwhile, on Ting's team's side, they have made their way to the boss monster, which is a Flora Mage. But the boss monster is not as easy as they thought. Even though they are restraining the boss monster, the students are already being pushed to the limit. The archer on the team tries everything in his arsenal to break the monster's defense, but nothing is working whatsoever. They are all thrown around by the monster's large vines, and one of them screams out in pain, revealing that this is the first time they have encountered such a strong monster. They are left with a big question of what to do, and one of them mentions that the only choice they have is to rely on Ting. It turns out that Ting is being charged up by two mages, which is why they have been the ones holding down the monster. Once Ting has gotten enough boost, he dashes off in a flash, leaving a massive explosion in his wake. His speed is so insane that he reaches the Flora Mage before it can react. Ting pushes his flame sword into the monster, burning it from the inside. Ting lights his sword on fire and he intensifies the flames, burning the Flora Mage to shreds. The rest of the team jumps in celebration, talking about how strong Ting is, which is exactly why he is the Guildmaster. By defeating the Flora Mage, the team is congratulated on clearing the D-rank Demon Cave, and the total time of completion is 35 minutes. Cheng celebrates this like crazy, saying no one will ever break their record to have cleared a D-rank dungeon in half an hour. The rest of the team jumps for joy because this basically means they are going to get 150 points, which is the perfect score and a new school record. Even Ting is pleased, and they are all eager to step out of the Demon Cave to check the rankings. Upon stepping out, they start boasting about how it would have taken others at least 1 hour to clear an F-rank cave. Chung says anyone leaving the Demon Cave at this time aside from them must have forfeited for being trash. As they walk through the waiting area, they find wounded students and terrified students who barely made it out of the cave alive. Just then, they spot Si-Chen and his team standing in the distance, and Chung immediately assumes that they ran out of the cave because they were too scared. Yu and Zhu have blankets wrapped around their bodies thanks to the cold, while Malong and Si-Chen take a cup of hot coffee. Chung confidently walks up to Si-Chen and his team and he starts mocking them for not being able to finish the assessment. Ting realizes that Cheng is about to take it too far and he calls him back. He lets him know that Carl is around and they have to greet him. As Carl appears in the distance, he is already clapping his hands while admitting that the whole thing that he witnessed was brilliant. Chung almost loses his mind because he knows what power Carl holds, and seeing him walk towards them causes his legs to shake. Ting stretches his hand to greet Carl, but Carl walks past him in the worst possible way, leaving him completely hanging. Carl walks up to Si-Chen, commending him and telling him that he is really remarkable. Ting is trying to understand what is happening until she hears Carl commending Si-Chen for clearing the cave in mere 21 minutes. Carl mentions that even a fully fledged professional guild raid team would find it difficult to achieve. Chung screams out in shock when he hears Si-Chen's completion time. Si-Chen and his teammates offer their greetings to Carl. Si-Chen recognizes Carl and he knows that he is arguably the second most powerful man in the world as it stands. However, what he doesn't know is why Carl would come to the school. Carl confidently mentions that his trip to the school was definitely not a waste. Just then, he remembers that Ting of the Gong family also did well because it is impressive to have led a team to clear a D-rank demon lair at such a young age. Carl commends Lin, saying he taught Ting really well. Lin accepts the commendations, but deep down he is pissed that someone bested his son. Carl then reveals his intention to leave since it is already getting late. Carl teases Long, telling him that he managed to hit the jackpot this time around because he found nice prodigies in a single year, which is pretty rare. Zhuan then declares his intention to announce the assessment results for both teams. He mentions that since there is a tie for a perfect score in the assessment, he announces that both of their teams are tied for the championship, so everyone on both teams is eligible to join the Empire Guild. Malong and the other three jump up in joy because they have been awarded a rare opportunity, which is a one-way ticket to the top. Ting's lackeys also celebrate this, but Ting and Si-Chen remain totally calm about the whole thing. Zhuan then mentions that Ting and Si-Chen will both split the 1 million MVP prize money equally. Si-Chen hears this, and he becomes worried because he promised Z that he would pay back 1 million within a month. This leaves him wondering if he would have to delay the payment, but he concludes that the only viable option is to find another way to earn 500,000 as quickly as possible. Suddenly, Ting speaks up saying there can only be one champion, and he immediately demands a one-on-one tiebreaker battle with Si Chen. Ting's declaration shocks everyone, and even Carl, who is already leaving, turns around with the sudden twist of events. Xuan walks to Ting, whispering in his ear, asking him why he is being rash, since the assessment is already over. He lets him know that a tie for first place is the perfect outcome, and he also believes that Si Chen would never agree to an extra match. Just then, Si Chen shocks everyone, asking Ting if he would surrender the entire 1 million if Si Chen wins. Xuan almost chokes on his saliva when he hears this, and Ting promises to hand over all the money if Si Chen is able to defeat him. Carl is left entertained by this because this means the performance hasn't ended yet. Si Chen confidently walks up to Ting, asking him how he wants them to settle the match. After the whole challenge thing, Si Chen heads to Mithril Exchange to talk to Z about the loan repayment. Si lets him know that he wasn't expecting him to completely shatter the record, even though he was expecting him to take first place. Z tells him that he is currently all over the news, and he is glad that he made a wise decision. In fact, Z tells Si Chen that he doesn't need to pay him back the 1.5 million, suggesting that he considers it his investment in him. However, Si Chen refuses, telling the man that a debt is a debt and he must repay it. Si Chen lets Z know that he is there to tell him two things, and the first thing is the repayment deadline. Si Chen wants Z to grant him a 1-week extension, and this is because the graduation assessment ended in a tie, so he only received 500,000, which is way less than expected. Si Chen tells Z that he will have a one-on-one tiebreaker with Ting, the other champion, which is going to take place a week from the current day in the wild demon cave outside the school. Z is shocked to hear this, since it is unprecedented for students to enter a demon cave. He mentions that neither Ting nor Si Chen has gone through professional guild training, which makes it pretty dangerous. Si Chen tells Z that he has nothing to worry about, assuring him that once he wins the tiebreaker in a week, he will get the remaining 500,000. In addition, he is going to give him all the materials he obtains from the demon cave, so he should consider this the interest for a 1-week extension. Z is surprised because Si Chen is not even showing the slightest hint of fear about entering the demon cave, but he is only thinking about his debt and interest. With this, Z can only confirm that the dude is truly extraordinary. Just then, Si Chen tells Z that there is one more important thing he needs to discuss with him. Z is completely shocked and overwhelmed when he hears everything Si Chen has to talk about. In fact, he is so shocked that it gets him out of his seat. Later on at Yun's school, she has just finished her final exam, and she's in high spirits because the summer vacation has automatically started. Just then, it dawns on her that it is her brother's graduation assessment day. She remembers the first day Si Chen got the admission letter to the school, and they were completely hyped. Si Chen had high hopes of joining a top guild so he could take care of Yun and create a better life for her. In fact, he believes that he might use the opportunity to uncover the truth about their parents' disappearance. Yun praises her brother, assuring him that he is going to become a super incredible awakener. However, after a while, Si Chen failed to awaken, and the high hopes they initially had started becoming bleak. However, Si Chen refuses to be knocked down by this setback, and he wears a smile on his face, assuring his sister that he is going to keep working hard to make sure he makes ends meet. After getting into the university, Si Chen started working harder than anyone else, but in the end, he became the only one who failed to awaken. Yun believes her brother must have been so lonely, since he was the only one who was left who hadn't awakened. Yun is deep in thought when one of her friends shows up and brings her back to reality by shoving her on the shoulder, asking her if she's heard that the National Awakener University produced 2 genius graduates. She mentions that these 2 geniuses led their teams to perfect scores, and Carl even came in person to praise them. The girl tells Yun that the whole story is all over the news, and it appears that their city is going to be famous really soon. She's about to ask Yun about her brother when they are cut off by a pink-haired popular dude in school. The dude tells Yun that he has booked the private penthouse at the Zaifeng building, and he wants Yun to come by 8 p.m. Yun's friend is shocked when she sees this because she never knew Yun was connected to the school idol. Yun remains silent, and she soon runs off, shocking her suitor and her friend. As she runs off, she thinks about how sad her brother must be feeling because he is the only one who didn't awaken. She decides to run home and make him a feast, just to cheer him up. That night, Si Chen returns home to find different delicacies that have been prepared by Yun, and this shocks Si Chen. Si Chen is forced to ask her how she had the time to prepare all of these. Si Chen wastes no time as he descends upon the food, and he starts swallowing everything his hand can touch. Behind Yun, the TV is broadcasting the news concerning the graduation combat assessment. While the news is being broadcast, Si Chen is having the best time of his life. And to Yun, she believes that Si Chen is just trying to act tough, even though he is broken inside. She knows that failing the graduation assessment would be a massive blow to anyone, but he is not even showing any sign that he is depressed. The news anchor continues, revealing that the assessment produced a dual champion outcome, which is pretty rare. She talks about how Carl praised the two geniuses who led their teams to victory, and she proceeds to mention their names. Just then, Yun hears her brother's name, and she turns around in shock as she doesn't want to believe her eyes. She stares at the TV and realizes that it is true, and the one who got the perfect score is her freaking brother. Meanwhile, Lin is busy whipping his son for failing even after everything he set up for him. He mentions that he personally invited Carl, but he ended up messing everything up and even presented another candidate for them to see. Lin is pissed that his son lost to a nobody, and because of this, he has whipped his back so badly that he is bleeding all over. Lin then tells Ting that from that moment forward, Ting doesn't get to make his own decisions, revealing that he has already arranged everything for his combat tiebreaker, which is going to be held in a week. Lin tells Ting that he is ready to do it for him since he has failed to do it himself. Lin confidently declares that no matter what it takes, the first place must go to the Gong family, showing how screwed up the family is. Back in Si-chen's home, Yun turns to her brother in shock, asking him if he is the one the anchor is talking about. Si-chen casually replies that he is the one, asking her if it is a big deal. Yun's eating spoon drops from her in total shock, as she can't believe that her own brother is the talk of the town. Yun cannot believe that Si-chen was praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. Tears drop from her eyes because her own brother, who was at the bottom of the trash, has finally risen to the top. At the same time, Carl is meeting with Ling Yu, whom he calls Kite. He asks her for progress, and she lets him know everything she's found out about the Devourer in the past year. She then tells Carl about Si-chen, saying his power spiked out of nowhere recently, so it is pretty abnormal. When Si-chen finally goes to sleep that night, he heads back into the dream world to challenge the tower again. He has basically spent over 2 weeks on the first floor, and he has almost wiped out all the monsters on the floor. He has also adapted to fighting in a 10x gravity environment. After the graduation assessment battle ended, his Lightning Assassin class gained a star, and this is when he found out that using a specific class frequently can increase its proficiency, which means none of the 4 classes he currently possesses have reached their limit. The 1 star that he obtained was allocated to the speed section of the class, which is the most critical stat for an assassin. At the moment, he figures out that his speed stat alone would have reached the level of an A-rank assassin. Even with this, he has not been able to take down the Lord of the First Floor. It turns out that the abilities of the Lion King are very strange because whenever he finds an opening and attempts to attack it, it just disappears and reappears next to a lioness that is far away from Si-chen. The lionesses adjust their positioning based on the situation, but their formation remains eternally unchanged. There are always 2 lionesses confronting Si-chen in close combat, while the other 2 remain on standby from a distance. In addition, the Lion King always maintains the furthest distance from Si-chen, and even though it is the Lord of the Floor, it doesn't toil its own hands. This leaves Si-chen wondering what the Lion King's class is. One of the lionesses dashes toward him, but just as he's about to cut it, it vanishes at the point of contact. The lionesses then reappear beside the Lion King, and just as he stops, another lioness charges forward to bait him into attacking. This is basically what they have been doing, and they make sure to maintain their formation without providing a room for error. They just come at him repeatedly, while vanishing before he gets to cut them, turning the situation into an endless war of attrition against him. Si-chen is completely pissed about the fact that the Lion King is just messing around with him, and suddenly, something occurs to him. He realizes that he's been stupidly trying to match the monster head-on with speed when he can do something else. He leaps into the air and switches to the Skeleton Frost King in an attempt to use a mage class to deal with the Lion King, since it has no intention of fighting Si-chen head-on. Si-chen unleashes ice spikes at the monsters, forcing them to run towards the Lion King to try and protect it. It is well known that mages are physically weak when it comes to close combat, but they are the best when it comes to long-range battle and crowd control. The downpour of ice spikes from above forces the monsters into a tight spot, which is exactly what Si-chen wants. Once they are exactly where he wants them, Si-chen starts cooking up a massive ice burst bomb that scares the hell out of the Lion King, since it knows that there's no escape whatsoever. Once the bomb is ready, Si-chen lets it go and it leaves a big explosion at impact. This freezes up the monsters, including the annoying Lion King. Once the Lion King is trapped, Si-chen switches to Rakshasa and delivers a powerful slash that slices the Lion King in half. Upon defeating the Lion King, the other lionesses start fading away, and Si-chen jumps from level 16 to level 24. He obtains 4 pieces of Phantom Spirit Lion Bone and a Phantom Spirit Lion Heart. The system lets him know that he can devour the Lion King, and Si-chen wastes no time absorbing it because he is curious to know what its class is. Si-chen takes in the entirety of the Lion King's essence, and once it fully morphs into a power card, Si-chen gets to see the Lion's class. Basically, it has 2 skills, which are Astral Spirit Pact and Astral Orbit Jump. The Spirit Pact can help forcibly sign a contract with a beast with a certain probability of recruiting it as a contracted beast. The stronger the user's intimidation, the higher the success rate. If the master dies, the contracted beast will also die. The orbit jump, on the other hand, consumes mana to warp to the contracted beast's side or summon the contracted beast to the user's side. Si-Chen is surprised, since this is the first time he has seen a class called Beastmaster. He finally realizes why the Lion King never dared to fight him head-on. Its abilities are not that impressive, so it basically relies on contracted beasts for damage output. Nonetheless, Si-Chen admits that the spatial warp ability is quite useful. In addition, he can force a contract with any beast, but it requires an intense intimidation factor, and this shows Si-Chen that he has to be ruthless if he wants to do this. Just then, the environment changes into a desert land, and Si-Chen realizes that he is finally seeing the original appearance of the first floor. This leaves him wondering what might have happened. Moments later, the door to the second floor appears before him, but just as he is about to leave, he senses a strange presence behind him. He turns around to see a lion cub chained to a skeleton prison. Si-Chen is surprised that there is still a lion cub left, and he conjures a lightning blade as he prepares to cut down the cub. Just then, it dawns on him that he has killed the Lion King, but the lion cub hasn't vanished, which basically means the cub isn't the Lion King's contracted beast. He notices the astral chains on the cub's body, and he realizes that it was kept prisoner by the phantom spirit Lion King. Si-Chen swings his blade at the cub, but instead of killing the cub, he cuts the chains holding it down, thus setting it free. Si-Chen actually pities the lion because he knows that it is not in its home and must have lost its comrades, which is quite sad. Si-Chen lets the cub know that it is going to be lonely, but it has no choice but to keep living on. Just as he is about to step through the door, he receives a beast contract request from the cub. The system lets him know that the success rate is 100%. The cub has 2 passive skills. Upon signing the contract, the contracted beast's attributes are enhanced, and any experience points gained by the contracted beast will be equally shared with the master. The second skill is that if the contracted beast is in danger, the master can access its current field of vision. Si-Chen turns around in shock, as he wasn't expecting to be able to form a contract with the beast, Lion King Leo. Si-Chen asks Leo if it wants to follow him, and Leo replies with a roar, which basically means yes. Si-Chen lets Leo know that from that moment forward, he is going to be conquering the floor of the Devil Tower, which means every step he takes is going to be dangerous. Si-Chen lets Leo know that it can even lose its life, and he asks if it has truly thought it through, and Leo confirms this with a roar. Since this is the case, Si-Chen consents to the contract, and the contract is formed successfully. Once they are done, Si-Chen tells Leo that it is time for them to head to the second floor. Si-Chen urges Leo to make sure it protects itself while he is busy fighting, and Leo acknowledges this. Upon stepping onto the second floor, it turns out to be a floor filled with lava, which makes it so hot. Even Si-Chen can feel the heat, talking about how it feels like he is going to melt. Si-Chen wonders what monster he is going to encounter on the second floor, and suddenly, an attack comes out of nowhere. Before Si-Chen can react, the attack already leaves a big hole in his chest, killing him on the spot. Si-Chen wakes up in fear, clutching his chest with fear creeping through his body. Si-Chen cannot believe that he was killed in an instant when he didn't even get to see what kind of monster he was going up against. Si-Chen is thinking about this when he hears his sister calling out to him, telling him to step out to eat breakfast. Si-Chen heads to the dining room, and he is blown away by the magnificent feast that was prepared by his sister. Yoon prepares to leave the house, and she tells Si-Chen to wash the dishes in the sink after he is done eating. She adds that he should hang the clothes from the washing machine in 30 minutes. Si-Chen is surprised, and he asks Yoon where she is going in such a rush because he knows that summer vacation has started. Yoon replies that she is heading to her summer job, and Si-Chen is surprised to hear this, since he remembers telling his sister that they are now comfortable. Yoon smiles, telling Si-Chen that he has risen to the top, so she can't afford to fall behind too. In addition, she is just going to be bored to death if she tries staying at home throughout the summer. Before Si-Chen can change her mind, she dashes off, while reminding him about the clothes in the washing machine. After she is gone, Si-Chen attends to the chores Yoon gave him, and he smiles while doing them because he knows that his sister has always been the determined type. Even though she is still a child, she takes care of her older brother like a baby. Si-Chen figures out that after he is done with the whole school shenanigans, he has to deal with Wrath, which means he won't be able to stay by his sister's side for much longer. He worries so much about Yoon, and just then, something crosses his mind, and he decides to try it out. He taps into his mental space, and he opens his inventory for Leo to fall out. Si-Chen is surprised that he was able to summon a contracted beast from the dream world. Leo wastes no time acting like a normal kitten as it trashes the entire room in minutes. With this, Si-Chen figures out that he can just have Leo follow Yoon around, so he can know when she is in danger, which will help him rush over to her side. Apparently, Yoon has always loved cats and dogs since she was little, and if it were a small lion, Si-Chen believes that Yoon would have no issue with it. Before he knows it, Leo has trashed the entire house, ruining the kitchen too. That evening, an awakened man is seen fighting a hidden enemy that appears to possess the devouring skill too. The awakened stands no chance whatsoever against the monster, and before he dies, the image of the monster flashes before his eyes, showing that it is one of the demon kings and most likely Lanyu. At the same time, Yun just got off work and she is walking home completely tired because she's been standing all day. While walking through an alley, she runs into someone who leaves her completely stunned. This person turns out to be the pink-haired idol from her school who invited her, Jin Duoksin. Duoksin tells Yun that she left school in a rush the last time they saw each other, so she basically missed his invitation for a date. However, he lets her know that he can still rent out the entire building just for their date that night, but his presence is already disgusting to Yun. She asks him how he even knows that she lives around. Duoksin boastfully reveals that his father is the director of the first hospital, so it is easy for him to pull a few strings to find her. Yun turns around, telling Duoksin never to come find her again because they are from two completely different worlds. Duoksin gets mad, and he grabs Yun, asking her if she has any idea how much effort he put into the whole date thing. In fact, he has invited a bunch of his friends, and Yun not showing up will totally mean she is disrespecting him. Yun stares at him intently, asking him why she has to show him any respect. Yun adds that the fact that he was staking out her home was creepy as hell. Duoksin loses it, and he asks Yun who she thinks she is to believe he is stalking her. Duoksin tells her that he is just trying to be nice, but she is throwing it right back in his face. Duoksin yells at Yun, asking her if she thinks he can't have his way with her in just 3 minutes, but this gets Yun mad and she headbutts him really hard. Duoksin crashes to his knees in pain, and Yun tells him to check his brain at his dad's hospital because he is clearly not okay. Yun walks off in anger, telling him never to bother her again. Upon arriving home, Yun immediately falls in love with Leo. She starts petting Leo while calling it an adorable magical beast. Si-chen then tells Yun that the beast's name is Leo, and she is going to be taking care of him from that moment forward. Yun is blown away by the idea that she gets to raise a baby lion. Yun then expresses her surprise that Leo's mane is already so long, which is quite surprising because she thought only adult lions have manes. Nonetheless, she doesn't mind, and she talks about getting herself a magical beast adoption license, so she can officially register Leo. Si-chen is glad that Yun is comfortable with Leo, and this lets him know that he won't have to worry about Yun being in danger. Just then, he receives an email from the Guild Supervisory Bureau, telling him that his application has been approved. Si-chen is glad to see this because his plan is going accordingly, and what is next on his plan is to win the tiebreaker, which will be held 6 days from that day. 6 days later, the challenge day finally arrives, and it appears that they are going to be conducting the exercise at the Greenlight Forest. Zhuan mentions that after a thorough discussion, the school board has decided that the assessment will take place in the Greenlight Forest, and it has been determined that the Demon Cave is D rank. He mentions that Si-chen and Ting will be assessed within the same demon cave, and because the internal environment of a wild demon's cave is unknown, the risks are higher than those in the caves used for school assessments. Because of this, they have dispatched 3 senior guild raid team members from the Dongsan Nation to serve as examiners, who will also accompany them. The 3 are going to follow the candidates into the cave, and their job is not just to provide protection, but also to score them in real time based on their performance. The white-haired examiner is Ivan, and he is a C-rank Flora chanter. The dude with a hat is Caillou, and he is a nuclear shooter. The fatso is Yuta Sato, and he is a C-rank Star Warrior. Zhuan mentions that the final results will be determined by the scores given by the examiners. Meanwhile, Lin is watching, and he smiles because he has put everything in place for his son, and he can only hope that the 3 examiners perform their duties well. Long then asks Carl why he is still in the country even though his vacation ended 2 days ago. Carl tells Long that the match between Si-chen and Ting is pretty interesting and cannot be missed. He mentions that he hasn't witnessed a duel between geniuses in many years, which is something he looks forward to. Just then, Zhuan declares the match open and the 2 step into the demon cave. Upon entering, the examiners realize that it is a Flora-type demon cave. Suddenly, Si-chen receives a danger warning from the demon heart, telling him that a high-risk monster has been detected. Si-chen is shocked since this is the first time the demon heart has issued a warning to him. However, the warning vanishes quickly too, leaving him to wonder if there is a high-level monster inside a D-rank demon lair. The 2 continue venturing deep into the lair with the examiners watching from behind. The examiners make sure to stay within range to make sure they don't lose sight of the candidates, thanks to the thick fog. Suddenly, a D-rank toxic cage ant emerges from the ground, and Ting reacts to this instantly. Sato is impressed by his reaction speed, but he wants to see how he is going to deal with the ant, since they are known to be ruthless and deadly. The ant shoots corrosive liquid at Ting, but he cuts everything down before reaching the ant and delivers a powerful cut to slice it in half. Ting doesn't stop there, and he makes sure to puncture the monster's heart with his fiery blade, thus incinerating the monster. Ting aura farms just because he manages to kill an ant, and the examiners start dishing out points for him because he reacted so fast to the ant's presence. The trio each awards Ting 10 points, claiming that he displayed exceptional action for someone who is just a student. On the other hand, Si Chen is strolling around, acting as if Ting didn't just kill a monster. The examiners are already writing him off as a failure because he failed to react to the ant monster. However, Ting wonders what he is searching for. Even Carl asks Long what he thinks Si Chen is looking for, and Long provides his answer. He mentions that Si Chen is looking for a method to secure a high score right off the bat. Just as he predicted, Si Chen finds the ant nest and he wastes no time poking it with his lightning blade, forcing the ants to run out of their hiding place. The examiners are shocked to see Si Chen going straight for the monster's nest. They scream at him, telling him that he is dealing with D-rank monsters and that by disturbing their nest, he has automatically put everyone at risk. Ting soon figures out what Si Chen is planning to do, but it is already too late as Si Chen cuts them all down with a single strike by moving through them with a lightning-fast attack. From a single attack, Si Chen wipes out the ants, leaving the examiners completely shocked. The reports they got were that Si Chen is E-rank, but he just took down a bunch of monsters that are supposed to be stronger than him. Seeing this, they conclude that he is freaking overpowered, and they are left asking themselves how they are supposed to grade him. They start looking for excuses to make him look bad, but back in the monitor room, Carl is completely blown away by how Long was right in what Si Chen wanted to do. Carl is so invested in the assessment that he is munching on a pack of chips just to make sure he is fully concentrated. Carl talks about how spectacular the whole thing is, and he wonders just how Ting plans to respond to this. Seeing how Carl is praising Si Chen, Lin is already losing his mind, and he clutches his fist in anger. Suddenly the signal goes off, shocking them since this is the second time this has happened. Outside the dungeon, the official managing the dungeon is shocked when the system starts glitching, revealing that there is an anomaly in the system. Before they know it, the entrance to the demon cave vanishes, leaving the officials utterly confused. Back in the dungeon, Si Chen hears a familiar voice, and this is Wrath's voice. Wrath's. On the outside, Zhuan is losing his mind, and he yells at one of the staff members to request backup, while wondering if something bad has happened in the demon lair. In the lair, they start hearing strange music, but Si Chen recognizes it as Wrath's voice, leaving him to wonder why Wrath's voice would appear in such a dungeon, since he was supposed to appear 3 years later. Just then, the demon heart issues a bunch of warnings to Si Chen, telling him that the contamination levels are critical. Si Chen turns around when he notices that there is something strange inside the cave behind him. Suddenly, they hear a voice emerging from the cave, leaving the examiners worried. The fog soon clears off, and a giant ant monster with blade-like arms steps out of the cave. Out of nowhere, the monster speaks, saying it is glad that humans have taken its bait. Sato freaks out, since they have never seen a talking monster before, which basically means it is C rank or even higher. Sato jumps forward as he prepares to take on the monster, while telling Si Chen and Ting to stay back. Sato conjures a mana axe with his power, but before he even knows what is happening, his right hand flies off from a precise cut delivered by the ant. The other examiners freak out when they see this, and in no time, it pierces Ting's shoulder with its giant arm, while confidently telling them that they are going to die. Ting loses it, and he angrily cuts off the arm inside his shoulder, shocking the ant. Ting then delivers a powerful kick that sends the ant monster staggering backwards. Ting then tells Si Chen not to interfere in the fight because, according to the principles of raid priority, the ant monster solely belongs to him. Si Chen acknowledges this, and he checks out the monster's rank, and he confirms that it is C rank, just like Ting. The examiners rush over to tell Si Chen to calm down because he needs immediate medical treatment. However, Ting refuses, and he cauterizes his wound with flames. Even Si Chen is impressed by his tenacity and bravery. Ting unleashes his flame potential, and he looks really pissed as he tells the examiners that the winner for the duel has yet to be decided. Once he is done charging himself up, Ting charges toward the monster with ferocity. Meanwhile, a team commander from the Empire Guild raid, Lin Wuke, has shown up on the scene. He tells Zhuan and the others that with what he is seeing, there is a highly intelligent monster inside. This is a monster that will intentionally open the entrance to a dungeon to trap humans. Zhuan then asks Wuke what they are supposed to do in this situation because Ting is still trapped in the dungeon. Wuke mentions that the only way they can get the dungeon to open is for those inside the dungeon to kill the lair's boss monster. Zhuan heaves a sigh of relief when he hears this because a D-rank dungeon can only house a C-rank lord at most, which means they can individually handle the monster. Just then, Wuke tells him that the D-rank classification was merely a facade that was created by the monster lord, and from his observation, the monster inside the demon lair is likely the culprit behind the disappearances of the basic awakeners they have been investigating for a while. Wuke lets Zhuan know that everyone inside the dungeon is in danger because the dungeon is B rank or higher. Back in the dungeon, Ting and the ant monster are going head to head. The ant swings its giant arms at Ting, but he always dodges thanks to his insane reflexes. As the battle progresses, Ting finally finds an opening, and he doesn't even hesitate before removing the monster's head. After defeating the monster, the examiners are completely shocked at how Ting was able to slay the dungeon's monster all by himself. They praise Ting, saying his power is truly extraordinary, and while Ting was fighting the monster, Ivan was already healing Sato's severed arm. Suddenly, Sato notices that they have lost all connection to the outside world. The examiners start freaking out because even the compass is malfunctioning, and to make it worse, the camera drone has gone offline. Suddenly, the body of the ant monster gets back up, and it comes after Ting. Ting senses the attack, but it is already too late for him to react. Just as the ant monster is about to cut him up, Si-Chen steps in to slice the monster, thus obtaining 2,000 experience points. Ting is completely shocked that he cuts the monster's head, but it was still moving. Si-Chen then tells Ting that the monster was never the lord of the dungeon, revealing that it was hypnotized right from the start, which is why its corpse could still move. While Si-Chen is saying this, he already has his earbuds on, and he tells them that they need to leave the dungeon immediately or they are going to fall victim to the monster's spell. Ting asks him how he knows all of these, and even the examiners yell at him, telling him that the ant monster is C rank, so there is no way the ant monster is not the lord of the dungeon. Suddenly, the demon heart spams Si-Chen with warnings about a dangerous monster in the area. The music intensifies, and everyone except Si-Chen immediately falls under hypnosis. Si-Chen realizes that it is already too late, but because he is familiar with the sound wave, he is prepared. In his previous life, Wrath had used the same sound wave to hypnotize countless humans around the globe, while slaughtering them. Just then, Si-Chen sees the four walking toward the cave, and Si-Chen concludes that the lord of the dungeon is connected to Wrath. Si-Chen pretends to be hypnotized, and he follows them too, since he is curious to know the lord of the dungeon. They soon arrive at the end of the cave, where there is a strange monster sitting on a throne with giant snakes guarding him. There are also ant eggs scattered everywhere with bones and weapons of awakeners, who have fallen victim to the monster. Si-Chen is not surprised that the monster is using the same alpha sound wave that Wrath uses for hypnosis, and this is why he had prepared a counter, which is beta waves. Si-Chen knows that the other four could lose their lives at any time, since they lack countermeasures for the hypnosis, and this is why he plans to kill the lord of the dungeon as fast as he can. The boss monster is already salivating at the amount of human flesh it is going to consume. In a flashback scene, Ting was seen winning a brutal fight against his brother Cheng when he was just 8 years old. The battle was supervised by their father, and he didn't care that they were completely bloodied. After the battle, he called Ting to come to the table to eat, since he is the victor, while Cheng remained on his knees for the entirety of the night. That night, Cheng's stomach was still growling for food when Ting showed up with bread for him to eat. Cheng is shocked, and he tells Ting that he is going to be in trouble if their father finds out. Ting tells him to stop talking and just eat the food. Just as predicted, their father found out, and he beat Ting up. He whips him really badly in his room, while telling him that the Gong family remains at the top because he is always winning. He tells Ting that only victors reserve the right to set rules. Lin tells his son that he is currently not a victor, so he has to follow his rules, but Ting scornfully asks him if he would be setting the rules if he manages to defeat him. Lin smiles when he hears this, and he arranges a match between Ting and Wu Kei. Wu Kei defeats him with just a strike, shattering his sword in the process. Ting crashes to the ground, coughing up blood, while telling his father that he requested a match with him and not Wu Kei. Lin then tells him that his power is not defined by his combat prowess, but by the absolute authority that he holds in his hands. Lin tells him that the rules of the human world are not as simple as he thinks, but there is one thing that remains absolute, and this is victory. He mentions that the means are not relevant because only the outcome matters, and as his son, he must always make sure to stand at the pinnacle. He tells him that he must always win, no matter the cost, because victory is the sole reason for his existence. Ting asks himself the simple question of whether winning is the only reason he exists. Now, in the present day, Si-Chen is about to go after the lord of the dungeon when Ting grabs his arm, whispering to him to chill out. Ting tells Si-Chen that he doesn't know how he was able to avoid hypnosis, but he managed to find his own way, and this is by causing himself pain. He had dug into the injury he sustained earlier to break free from the monster's hypnosis. Ting tells Si-Chen that if he acts at that very moment, he is going to put everyone in grave danger. He points to the ant eggs, telling Si-Chen that if he disturbs the eggs, they will have a dozen C-rank monsters to fight, which means that they are done for. Ting looks around and realizes that the lord of the dungeon disguised the dungeon as a low-rank dungeon just to lure awakeners in and drain them. Ting wants them to stay still and make the boss monster approach them on its own. He suggests that they hide and kill the boss monster when it finally gets close to them. Si Chen commends Ting's ingenuity, but lets him know that his plan won't work because the boss monster they are going up against doesn't even need to lift a finger to kill their comrades. Just then, the music intensifies, and Sato and the others bring out their weapons in preparation to end their own lives. Before they can go through with this, Si Chen knocks them out with his lightning attack. The boss monster is shocked when it realizes that its plan was interrupted. The boss monster becomes totally pissed, and it tells the bugs in the eggs to come forth. All the eggs hatch, and the bugs start popping out. Just as expected, each bug is a C-rank monster. It then orders the bugs to go after Si Chen and the others. Ting then steps up, telling Si Chen to get everyone else out of the demon lair, promising to stay behind to hold the monsters back. Si Chen is shocked when he sees Ting offering himself up as a sacrifice, which is not something he expected. Ting tells Si Chen that he might not be able to defeat the entire swarm of bugs, but he should be able to buy them some time. One of the bugs lunges at them, but Ting pushes it backwards with his fiery blade, while saying he was the one who got everyone into the mess by requesting a tiebreaker match. Even though Ting is heavily wounded and injured, he is ready to put his life on the line to make sure that everyone else leaves the cave. He tells Si Chen that he started the mess, so he should be the one to end it. Just then, Si Chen walks forward in the most badass way he can while switching to the Lightning Assassin class. Lightning courses through his body as he conjures his lightning blade, while telling Ting that he also agreed to the match, so he is to blame too. Ting is completely blown away as he senses the overwhelming amount of power flowing through Si Chen's body.